The sizzling sausage. Studs on cement. Sport in the crisp wintry air. When the drawbridge goes up, see the absolute state of it. You're with Pez and Higgos. It's the Circus.
A new beginning for us here, and a new beginning for your team to give you the old feelings of heartache, anxiety, trauma, rage, and euphoria. It's still February, but those pangs of belonging steadily grow from within as soon as we get to see new colours, updated logos, new sponsors, and slightly tinkered rules. There's also blokes having a wrestle-off in a Vegas lift to see who gets a bed. Circuit nepotism, visa issues, got any men's sport? Umpires with gambling shows, and drug agreements being done in South Melbourne restaurants. Unfortunately for those captains, it was about illicit substance policy of the league. The 31st Prime Minister of Australia joins the show to discuss Sam Konstas' Green Sumbas, the return of the North Sydney Bears, HokBall versus the Bunnies, ins and outs of Las Vegas, and how fair and balanced Fox News and this show can be. That's also Tim Hewitt bringing his take on all those things as well. There's also the question of, is this the worst Premier League ever? How good do you need to be to negotiate a tennis drug ban? Gout Gout in the stall gift, and Kyrie Irving to Australia. My name is Ian Higgins. Sam Perry is with me. This is winter. This is February. This is Australia. This is the Circus.
Well done. Here goes. A red letter day. A red letter day for no one but you and I and a couple of other people.
No one cares.
No one really gives a shit.
Oh,
hey?
A new podcast?
Yeah.
What's a podcast?
Not just a new podcast, but a couple of red-blooded blokes sitting down, navigating the sport with with a couple of players, a couple of punters, a couple of pundits, comedians as well. Think of this show, this new venture as, just kind of like two blokes at a bar. Yeah. You know what I mean? Having a couple of beers with a couple of wry but insightful takes about sport that they want to talk about, talking to each other. A novel, innovative idea that hasn't really been kind of traversed yet in the podcast ecosystem.
That was the original name of the show, but we ran out of letters.
I actually do have a few potential names for the show.
Two blokes in a pub talking about sport over a beer.
Over a beer, or two. No, we did have a couple of names here. We were thought of calling it Games Gone, Home and Away Days, Let Him Cook, Hard Bodies, Sport Deluxe, This Season, and the Big Brekkie Breakfast Sports Luncheon.
So all options were available.
All options were available.
But we landed on the Circus.
Because that's what it is. That's what it is.
And how appropriate that the Prime Minister's on a show called The Circus, because that bloke's a clown.
Isn't he? And what a response there's been to the teaser
already.
A couple of people who know about politics, which is important to know. It's important to see.
Yeah. And people who do know about politics upset that the right questions haven't been asked without the interview being released at all, actually, in fact. So, everyone's upset, but, that's just the way it goes. But, one day, if you've joined us over the odyssey of, us broadcasting into the internet, one day you might think, wow, that was actually really cool. Those guys, they had the Prime Minister here. I'm going to focus on those people.
I doubt it.
Some people will be proud.
A couple of reasons we started this show. I think the key one is to annoy Indian fans of our cricket show, because there will be very, very minimal cricket chat on this show. Unless, which is basically put it in line with where cricket sits in the Australian sporting conversation.
It's February, getting the fucking bin.
Exactly, bin stuff. But as we've said, great to see Pakistan hosting a tournament and losing away to India. So that's all we'll say about that.
In the capital of Pakistan, Dubai.
That's right. Everyone gets what they want out of that, I'd say. This is the Circus is an experiment to see if you can get league and Aussie rules people to talk to each other.
Yeah, can we bring two worlds and universes together?
That's right.
Elon Musk stuff. Let's go to Mars.
I doubt it highly, but we're going to try.
Yeah.
We're two blokes who live in Melbourne from Sydney.
They like a beer.
There's also all sorts of problems. Red-blooded blokes who like a beer.
And a schnitzel. With chips and gravy.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Exactly. What do you call a Parmigiana? That sort of very interesting stuff. We are doing this show because through the winter you need to blow up deluxe or you need to go whack on things.
Yes.
It's very simple.
Yep.
Everybody understands it. Depending on where you are, on the Barassi line or west, doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
You do need to go whack on things.
Yes.
And that's what we do in our office, in our studio, he goes. Isn't it? Like that, like
we go whack.
Fourth wall, lift the hood on it, the car hood, that is.
Yeah.
And we come in and we talk about footy. We talk about a whole bunch of different codes. So we thought, why don't we pervert that by trying to monetize it?
Yeah.
There are no sponsors on this show, by the way. But rather than what might be a little bit different with the shows we've done before is like we want to get the punters involved more, just like we did with Morning After Paris.
Yeah,
with
we
the
want to do
Olympics.
less work.
We want to crowdsource this content and sit here and listen to it. So we asked you, the listener, the viewer, for your Speakpipe feelings about us starting this show, about what's getting you hot this winter in Australia. And this is our first presentation, I suppose, of our Speakpipes. We want them every week from you.
Yeah.
It's speakpipe.com/the circus.
Right.
Vent your spleen, 5 to 15 seconds is your sweet spot there. We want your emotional, visceral reactions, or visceral if you're being Sean Connery. Charlie, what have we got this week?
That music.
Fuck's this?
The fuck's this shit?
Yeah.
What's getting me hot is the boys filling the intellectual vacuum left by the mysterious and unwarranted departure of Robbo from AFL Christmas.
Agree.
What's getting me hot is two blokes out of Victoria who think they can make cheap salary sombrero jokes about my beloved Roosters while I watch them start the season 0-6 and start feeling like the Parramatta fans of the last 50 years. Stay in your lane.
People going, what's that,
Zach
mate?
Hosking starting in Vegas did not come into calculation on my summer spreadsheets.
Spreadsheet stuff,
I
right?
am fired up about the bad boy West Coast Eagles. We are so back. We're tired of being shit and we're letting people know. It's 2006 again. Ruben Ginby's pissing in public and breaking kids' jaws. Elijah Hewitt's looking good and he got kicked out of high school for drug dealing. Liam Ryan's getting in fights. There's tales around Perth of Jake Waterman's giant piece. We are so fucking back.
Community sentiment.
Fuck yeah.
Boys, who the fuck is Harley Reid?
Yeah.
And why the fuck do I care? Also, is Pete Lawler going to stop being a terrorist?
It's not a cricket
You
show.
boys cover some Super Rugby stuff. I went to a private school and I want my dad to love me.
What the fuck do you know about Hawthorn's defensive system? And whether or not Isaac Heaney is an A-grader?
Lane.
Who are you, fucking Jared and Robbo all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
People miss Jared and Robbo.
Yeah. Don't we all?
Somebody needs to put this Luca and Anthony Davis trade into grade terms.
Non-footy.
I go for the North Melbourne Football Club. Nothing's got me fucking hot in winter for fucking 10 years.
That's it. So the sentiments of the community.
It's a beautiful sentiment.
One of the things that stands out is just imagining right now, here goes, the people from across Australia and the world listening to that and thinking, what the fuck are people talking about with at least half of them?
Yes.
Right? And that's what we're going to just try and traverse that as best we can with as much bias as possible and probably try and annoy people as much as possible as well with little issues of detail, nomenclature issues, historical inaccuracies. Perceived bias. He's already had people writing in saying these two guys are from the eastern suburbs of Sydney. That's incorrect.
I wish.
We wish. I lived in Bondi for 6 months before I moved to Melbourne, South Bondi, that is. So I didn't get myself up north, but Bondi Road at least. And and someone just there saying we're out of Melbourne. Two blokes out of Melbourne. Two blokes out of Melbourne talking about the Roosters. So Roosters from Bondi upset that Melburnians, Victorians. Are talking about the Roosters.
Well, our team, the Storm, are going to win this year.
Yeah, Storms win the rugby.
In there.
That's what they call it down here. So there's a lot of people who are worried about the back and forth, and we're just going to try and traverse as best as possible.
That's why timestamps are going to be critical. So you can just skip to the parts you don't want. You know. Now, also, people will be seeing the length of this episode. Okay.
Yes.
This show is not going to go for this long every week. Unless you guys start fucking pulling your weight with longer speak pipes.
True.
Okay? And doing some host reads and that kind of stuff.
Or Dutton gets in touch.
Yeah,
we said, people like, are you going to have Dutton on? It's like, well, firstly, the Prime Minister's office approached us. Let's be clear about this. This was not a pitch from the Circus, P2I Ltd. It's not a pitch. They approached us. And we are very willing to receive approaches from the Dutton campaign as well. And anybody else who's running a campaign. Okay? Of which there are many within sport.
Couple of campaigns right now.
So yeah, but we're going to try and traverse. And I thought he goes the best way we could just give a little précis, a little summary to people about where we sit with these things is just so for you and I just to quickly give a rundown of where we're sitting with different sports.
Like Twitter bio stuff.
Twitter, exactly. Yeah.
I love me footy club, me missus, kids.
Yeah. Crows, Raiders, Vikings, kids in that order. Yeah. Salford, Musk.
That's right. Yeah.
So I thought maybe you could just run through your non-cricketing story. You know what I mean? Because people just see you as a cricket pedophile, basically, both of us. And that's all we do all year round. So what have you got for us? Give us get across sports for us.
Okay, so I'll tell you, 1996 was my year as a kid. I was 10, and
Good
both
year,
my teams, Manly and the Swans, made the grand finals.
Okay.
Made the grand finals, right. So Manly beat St George in 96, and the Swans lost to North Melbourne. Lost to Wayne Carey's North Melbourne in 96. So I know that people, like, there are already podcasters that are Manly fans. I know, and they do it well, you know? Better than I can ever do it, okay? So I'm sorry about that.
There's a couple of doyens out there who've traversed this field greatly.
I grew up in the Northern Beaches. That's a team that I support, etc.
Yeah.
So, and then Liverpool's my football team, and NBA.
You hate a good team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's because I grew up on the River Mersey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Coppin, Yinhua.
So Swans, can't tell if it's been good or bad the last few years, to be honest. I guess it's kind of good until it's not. And Manly, people just hate you, and that's fair enough. So there's that.
You went to a private school, so you've got some union heritage. You'd have to.
Yes.
It'd be in your blood, even if you didn't want it.
I played soccer at school, and then I played 1 year of union outside of school.
Okay.
So, and then there's some swimming.
So where do you play in soccer? Just for people, what's your...
where do I play? I don't know.
Trey Quatista.
I think at school I played in the middle of the park. So I played centre mid. Then I sort of went to like right wing sort of after school.
Just cut in.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you get on the outside? Yeah.
No, I went on the outside.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Wheels?
Not really.
Yeah.
When you're playing Div 7 against a guy in a wheelchair, it's kind of easy.
Yeah. Same thing for me. Like, grew up with league, union, soccer, cricket, tennis, the whole thing. And by the way, like in terms of the like style guide of this show, soccer will be referred to as football. Yeah. Aussie rules will be referred to as footy. Yeah. League will be referred to as footy, and union vaguely is footy as well. Yeah. So figure it out, basically.
And union depends how the Wallabies are going.
As I say,
16 tests this year for the Wallabies.
Okay,
most ever.
Nice.
3 against the Lions.
So I was going to go through the sports. So with football, soccer, right, RSL, Rams, under 6 to under 8s, played year 6 and year 12 at school. Didn't coin the term myself. I was a triple international at school, first in 3 different sports. We were a choir school. Centre mid, Burwood Strikers, 07 to 2010. Made the move to Melbourne. Played at Albert Park Spiders a couple of years.
How'd you go? Any premierships in there?
Yeah, we won one. We won one, and I was pretty disappointed because I thought the team before the game should have walked through Burwood Westfields together as a team, just to say hello to the community, but they went against it. And I've been trying to get the team to do a team of the century event in black tie because they all still play. It's the thing I miss most about living in Sydney, really.
Okay.
I mean, I found a sports team on a Saturday that was at the right level with friends.
Yeah.
And I've been every time I do see them, and the night goes on, I'm always saying we need a team of the century event, like with black tie at Burwood RSL. Hire it out, and we need wags and everything.
That'd be tremendous.
That's what I'm
saying.
Set up in limos. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or whatever it is.
Local press outside.
Exactly. Yeah. Get in touch with the Burwood Times.
Burwood Times, etc.
Yeah. Union or footy. Chats with under 10s or 11s. School rugby year 7 to year 11. Went through the grades there. Played exclusively 10 and goal kicked. Complete cat in defence. Loathed contact. Hunters Hill rugby post school 1 year. Every grade. Lost more than we won quite comfortably in all rugby that I played. I watched Joey's as a kid and looked up to it, lived nearby the school, didn't go to the school. I had a lot of issues. Used to sing Joey's chants, very sheltered life.
Sure.
Aussie rules, same as you, 96. Dad took me to the Aussie rules to protest what was happening with Super League, with Murdoch in the rugby league.
Right.
So fell in love with the Swans there. What are you looking at? Plugger, Paul Kelly, Stewie Maxfield.
I never understood why they kept booing Paul Roos.
Neither.
I thought he was a fine player.
Andrew
Everyone did
Dunkley, Mickey O, Darren Creswell, Matthew Nix,
Troy Luff,
Greg Stafford, Troy Luff, Mark Bays, Shannon Grant, Wade Chapman, you name it.
Yeah. you name it.
I will. And don't forget Dale Lewis. Played AFL 98, EA Sports.
How'd you go?
I remember Bruce McAvaney's commentary. The siren sound at the start of the game. We've been waiting for this. Big bounce to the two ruckman. Go for it.
I played rugby.
You always play against the Demons.
Rugby League 96 and AFL 98.
Yeah,
they
me
were,
too.
They were the two.
Yeah.
EA Sports did an absolute did the absolute business there.
Huge numbers.
See their eyes turning square.
I played when I moved to Melbourne. I played Prahran Footy Club, the Two Blues, in 2011.
See, I never played the code.
Yeah,
never played the code.
I played 2 games in the club 18. In the first game, a guy got stretchered off after 6 minutes. It was a 9 a.m. start. And
my God!
Second game we lost by 10 goals. I think Red Joe was through after that. No, I got fit though. It was it was a great game. It was a great exposure to it. So,
were you tagging?
I had to tag one. I remember tagging a guy for 1 quarter, and that was an experience. Like I was just. It's like the Benny Hill music, just running around after a guy. Well, it was a hell of a game. But,
do you reckon if you grew up here, you would just be a footy absolute nut? Like you would have played and yeah.
That's just culture. Shout out to Lee Stafford at Prahran. He will be surprised by that. And I just again it was with like we'll get into league in a second, but just like my like kink would be kicking. So like I've asked my wife for my 40th birthday, which is coming up, to like. Organise a couple of intensive days of masterclass kicking coaching from people in different different sports. So
because you love biomechanics.
I love the biomechanics of a drop punt and of goal kicking and of like general field kicking across sports.
Okay.
So like if I could go up to the local park with a different kicking guru of each sport, that's me in heaven. I'm like, some people like I like that. I like kicking as a hobby the way some people do playing guitar. Cooking, collecting stamps, weaving.
Right.
That's me.
Yep.
And then league, family of North Sydney Bears fans. I die hard, called up 2GB when I was 10 to tell them about the curse of the Camaragal. My dog's called Florino.
Sorry, what's the curse of the Camaragal?
Curse of Camaragal is so back in 1922, the local indigenous tribe, Camaragal tribe, so after which Camara is named, discovered that the North Sydney Rugby League club was playing footy on their old burial ground, North Sydney Oval.
Got it.
Cursed it. When was the last time the Bears won a comp? 1922. Bang.
I see.
I called up 2GB and told Andrew Moore and Mario Fennick, and he was like, I'm parachuting onto the ground tomorrow, and now I don't want to. Shout out to Muzza. I worked for NRL Stats in 2003.
Okay. Yep.
So beat a field of several hundreds out of a Herald Classifieds ad. I got interviewed by David Middleton in a storage room in the MLC building.
Right.
And lasted 3 weeks because they were paying $10 an hour.
It's a lot of money back then.
Mum's a Tigers fan, or it wasn't. No,
that was kind of the point.
Simpsons, back in my day, 50 cents was a lot. 2 quarters was a lot of money. Really, Dad? Nah. Mum's a Tigers fan. Local affinity with them, I guess. They entertain me. Shout out to Tigers fans. Mates are Tigers fans. But I feel nothing with rugby league until the Bears are back.
Okay.
One of my uncles played SG ball for the Bears.
Yeah.
So that's sorry, I know mine went longer than you, but just background for people.
Okay.
Really.
Yep.
So shall we get into the codes themselves?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose we shall. Well, I suppose we'll start with rugby league because it's obviously Vegas week.
Yep.
Vegas week in the next couple of days, next few hours. In fact, the first game kicking off. But we'll start with Hudson Young and Morgan Smithy's bust up in a Vegas lift.
Yeah.
So people would have already seen this. The panic button was pushed in the lift. A flat inflatable bat was involved. So basically, Smithy's didn't have a room. So he had a wrestle off with Hudson. To see who would get.
They've had a circuit.
Yeah,
they've circuited. They've come back.
Yeah,
and
there's been some disruption in terms of whose room is ready. Absolute nightmare when you're travelling.
World Resorts had a security issue, so there was lines for days, as in like a line.
Well, I'm sure there were.
Yeah, yeah. People were missing out on rooms, etc. So Hudson Young and Morgan Smithy's come back.
Yes,
one of them doesn't have a room and suggests, "Can I just sleep in your bed?"
Yeah.
Next minute, they're fighting in the lift. and there's an inflatable baseball bat.
Which can always happen.
Yeah, that can happen.
Now, the police were involved. And my question to you is now, because obviously the Oakland Raiders were moved to Vegas, now the Vegas Raiders,
yeah.
Where's the camaraderie with the Canberra Raiders.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
Please get involved. Now the NRL's embarrassed, ashamed. You got Weidler asking questions.
Yeah.
You know?
Chamis, Carianis.
It's just two blokes having a wrestle. Who gets a fucking bed?
I noted. I mean, this is the thing is, I think this has been a soft atrocity period for the NRL. This is the best. The best that it's got is that they might have been holding a weapon that turned out to be an inflatable baseball bat. Like if that isn't a symbol for the NRL cleaning itself up, I don't know what is. Like this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
I did note that Chamis and Weidler in the Nine media. Actually, very soon after the event, called this a masterclass in crisis management because the Raiders got everybody out. They got Don Ferner out, the CEO. They wheeled the players out.
Yeah. Ricky Stewart told it how it was to Danny Weidler.
That's right, told it how it was.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that article, it says the Herald's travel expenses to Las Vegas have been partly funded by the NRL, which is a separate issue. And it's great that everything's just working fine. So that's good.
And
the Raiders are really carrying the can for like things going on in Vegas.
Yeah, well, totally. Yeah. Well, because we've seen Jed Stewart, who's obviously Ricky Stewart's son,
obviously,
getting an invite to Vegas after his dad decided to leave him at home just because he wasn't selected. There's only a finite amount of players that can go to Vegas.
Dad says no because of he's like, I don't want the appearance of nepotism.
Right, but the boy says he's been training the house down. Yeah. He's got to come. Now, I think we all know it doesn't fucking matter how hard you train. Yeah. They just want to circuit with you.
Yeah, like
that's the...
If senior players are calling up a coach, whether it's a coach's son or not, and saying you must bring this person on tour, they've got incredible stories, chat, or a massive piece. That's it.
Or you want to corrupt them.
Exactly. So everything's going well with the Raiders. Hey, on the other side of it with the Raiders, Xavier Savage proposed to his partner and she accepted in Vegas as well. So it's not all bad. Yeah. Okay. I woke up to that news this morning.
Oh, okay.
And just finally on the Raiders as well, again carrying the can, they did invite UFC boss Dana White to blow the Viking horn before the Vegas opener.
Yeah.
Now, of course, they couldn't bring the incumbent Viking horn, the incumbent trumpet, over because it would be too hard to rebuild. So they spent more than $10,000 on a new custom-made Viking horn to trumpet their Vegas debut. It's 3.6 metres long.
Yeah.
Now, Dana White this morning, news emerges, Dana White's knocked it back.
Yeah.
He's a local, but he's not going to be in the region. So they are looking to other notables like members of the Vegas NHL team or the Las Vegas Raiders themselves as an opportunity for the Raiders to create synergies.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Las Vegas Raiders fans who are typing in their team name at the moment and just getting Hudson Young and Morgan Smithies.
It's a confusing time. It's a confusing time.
But synergies is what it's all about.
Well, a lot of people have been talking about the cost that the NRL is making to bring the players over there, and there's been some talk. It's actually been a huge loss. And V'landys
I don't think so.
V'landys said this morning or yesterday, I think it was, they're like, well, actually, there's possibility of actually a small profit, if not a small loss. So it's not a big loss. It's probably just a small loss.
So I've been concerned if V'landys is saying there's possibility of a small loss, that is concerning. For the NRL, because everything that I hear from V'landys is that the entirety of rugby league, and as we're going to discuss with the 31st Prime Minister of Australia himself, everything involved with rugby league is the nation on the improve. Like the nation's getting safer, the nation is rising up. Rugby league is the answer to any problem Australia has. So when V'landys saying there's a small loss, there's a problem.
Well, there's a bit of an issue as well. I mean, they are saving money on Delta Goodrum, who was going to do a performance in Vegas for the NRL faithful, but her house burnt down in the fires recently, and so she's been in Australia. So, and there's just no flights, so she can't.
So the house,
so her house burnt down.
She has a problem with the fires in another state
in
of America,
California,
so that she can't do Vegas.
Yeah, so she's been living in Australia, so just can't.
Well, open shut.
Clears that up.
It's very clear what Vegas is about to you as well, right? So this is one of the... If people want to have conversations around the water cooler, etc., around Australia, especially if you're other side of the Barassi line, don't know what the fuck we're talking about. The thing you got to understand about Vegas is that the pitch to Americans is that there's no pads. They don't wear pads.
Yeah.
And that's actually genius when you're pitching that to Trump because there is a CTE issue in NFL at the moment. There are class actions, but you can appeal to the wokerati, like the anti-wokerati, sorry.
Yeah.
That, here's a game where you can actually use the fullness of your head.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
But the thing you got to understand about Vegas is it's about American audiences. Right?
Yeah.
That's the way it's being pitched. You actually bring a lot of Americans in and say in 5 to 10 years, it's the Super Bowl. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
You also have
5 to 10.
Gambling money as well.
Yeah.
You get a little slice of gambling money there. So
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Broadcast audience as well. They put it on Fox Sports 1. I think Roy Nash was saying over the weekend there's at least 5,000 to 10,000 people watching, which is good.
It's basically frog box.
Yeah. But I'm seeing the NRL's claim the number one sport mantle. He goes with 10% more viewers than the AFL.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they're getting those numbers from, but I just can't see that being correct.
Do you see that Vlandis is talking about selling the State of Origin to a different streaming service? Worked tremendously well with Netflix for that fight.
He's a fierce negotiator, Vlandis. That's what you've got to understand.
Yeah.
He's a fierce negotiator.
Should we talk about AFL?
I just want to ask you one question here, guys. I know we're trying to move through this quickly because it's a long show, but I just shout out to the Sackville in Balmain. They were, according to Chris Barrett. Shout out to Chris Barrett. They were given a rap over the knuckles for serving an NRL journalist 21 schooners. That's Paul Kent, of course. He's back with a podcast as well.
They got his back.
And he's owning the joke, I think.
It's good to see him back.
Calling himself the paper bark writer. But I guess a question I've seen emerging on the internet is, I think Kenty, and I'm paraphrasing, allegedly, whatever, is making the argument that like 21 schooners over 11 hours, which is what it was drunk in, isn't that much.
It's not that much.
But mid-strength.
Mid-strength.
So people, I have seen discussed on the internet, it's like, well, like one of those things where when you think about it, 21 over 11 hours, especially if you start with a couple early, and then you're sitting at maybe one every 45 minutes.
If your pace is like 1.5 an hour.
Especially if it's a mid-strength. That's just, anyone who says that's a lot of beers hasn't had a day on the beers. It's actually not that bad.
Or had to talk to a bouncer afterwards.
Exactly.
You know, like you go to a bouncer in Sydney afterwards and they say, where have you been today? I've just been at Sackville. How many have you had? 21?
Well, I guess we're asking for the... We're asking for the Speakpipes. Is 21 schooners over 11 hours a lot?
Yeah.
What do you classify that as? So
mid-strength is that I'm with Kenty there. Yeah. I'm with PK.
Well, listen, I don't think Kenty's saying it's nothing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's behind the wheel.
It's not. You know, you're not behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Let's hope not.
Have you been drinking? I've only had 21.
Over 11 hours.
Over 11 mids.
Do the maths on that. How many beers do you have today? 21. Not that much.
Why'd you stop? Had to go home.
Not that much. Who do you like for the Premiership NRL?
Well, unfortunately, with the NRL, it's sort of the top two are the top two. Yeah. And I've always said that it's going to be Storm and Panthers, isn't it?
Nothing changes.
And then there's
do you think Brisbane's back? Do you think they're back under Madge, under a disciplinarian Madge? You know what I mean? He taking care of the soft rock star image. I mean, we can ask Hewy about this. He's from up there.
I reckon top two are the top two, and then there's Brisbane the Sharks.
Yeah.
And then there's another pack of Manly Dogs Roosters, and then there's the rest.
Okay.
I think one of the most interesting stories is the West Tigers actually.
They always are.
With Luai.
They always are.
Does that mean anything? And Benji, Bags Marshall.
I love the Tigers. Grew up with them. Went to Leichhardt Oval. They're easily the best team to watch and the most interesting team in the NRL. But they have recorded a hat trick of wooden spoons.
Yes,
is a club with 3 consecutive.
I don't
wooden
think they got
spoons.
the spoon this year. There you go. Huge shout.
Enormous shout. I mean, and as there is every single year, there is Tiger Town is fever pitch. It's finals contention.
Do you like something outside the obvious stories of the final is almost guaranteed? There's like a 5-peat titillate for the Panthers.
I'm waiting for the WA elections for the Bears to come back. I don't give a fuck.
Don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, Penrith Reserve grade team, who they annihilated? They annihilated Manly, didn't they?
Yeah.
In a trial.
Yeah.
The entire first grade team's in Vegas. The system and the production line's just too good. Right now, and they still have almost the entirety of their spine. So.
Yeah. But the Tigers might not get the spoon, so.
Yeah, I'm big on the Tigers for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah. Will they make the 8?
The thing stopping me from answering that question is I have one mate who's such a diehard Tigers fan. I don't want to upset him.
Yeah.
So
he's blinded by passion.
Yeah.
Which is great.
That's okay.
It's a great spot to be.
That's okay. There's just as big an argument the Tigers finished 15, 16, 17 as there is that they finished higher than that.
I'm saying Luai's making a difference.
I think Luai's one of the best players in the comp. There you go. All right. Now the real stuff.
All right. Here's this. At least 2 captains expressed concerns to AFL Commission Chairman Richard Goyder over the proposed tightening of the illicit drugs policy when the skippers of all 18 clubs dined with league heavyweights at South Melbourne restaurant Lamaro's on Sunday night. A push to bring back State of Origin football was high on the agenda as well. At least one AFL representative and 4 or 5 captains sat at each table with steak, Black Angus Porterhouse, pan-fried veal schnitzel and seared yellowfin tuna on the menu.
It's just such a different tone and tenor to footy media.
I'm pretty sure Sam McClure and John Pierrick they've just Googled the menu at Lamaro's.
That's right, Lamaro's.
What were they eating?
You can get it online.
What were they dying on? Was it seared yellowfin tuna?
Yeah.
Anyway, so they were talking about drug policies.
Yeah.
They were talking about State of Origin, different issues with captaincy and that sort of thing. But all 18 were there.
I imagine in this is when
kit.
the captains get together. Yeah, they wear their full kit.
Yeah.
And they sit at Lamaro's eating like steak, tuna, or schnitzel with a nice glass of red. Probably local.
In groups of 4 or 5.
Groups of 4 or 5.
And someone's just going around just wheeling and dealing.
Like prefect, like king of the jocks guys sitting there with quite considered opinions on illicit drugs policies.
Yeah, with haircuts.
Yeah. The NRL's over there with inflatable baseball bats in lifts in Vegas.
Yeah.
I love it. It's a beautiful thing. It's a tapestry.
If league was talking about, drug policies in the same situation, they'd be like, where can we get a bag?
Well, I'm fairly certain that the AFL players are essentially saying the same thing, probably just in full kit and drinking red. No, but that's where we agree.
Schnitty.
Everyone in AFL and rugby league loves a line. Like that's the truth. It's just how we arrive at the ability to do it.
And the punishment therein.
That's right.
If caught.
Exactly. So, but it's good that it's on the it's on the table.
It's on the table.
Like cocaine is ubiquitous across classes.
It is.
So,
yes.
No problem there.
Unlike the football codes.
Exactly.
Something that brings us all together.
I think that the players are lobbying for the opportunity to have bags, which is also the nickname of West Tigers coach, and that's bags with a Z.
Which is
that's
in no
just
way
the truth.
related.
This is an information exchange. There's no glorification.
No. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
Maybe a 3 strikes policy or something.
I don't know.
I don't know if you caught this, Pezza, but there's an AFL umpire, Nick Foote, who's the host of a racing.com show.
Yep.
Which is affiliated and sponsored by a gambling company, Sportsbet.
Yep.
And he's given the all clear, all good to go. And I, for one, say rightfully so.
Absolutely.
If he wants to host a show, hosting gigs is tough. You get a gig, you should be able to host. Now, look, if you're umpiring the same thing, sponsored by a gambling company, look, there could be a conflict.
I could see where there is a conflict.
Yeah. Look, I could see one, but
you could make an argument there's a conflict.
Bloke's got to keep the fucking lights on at home,
If you're in bed with gambling companies and officiating events of sport,
Which
I could see why someone would go, is there an issue with that?
Yeah.
But I could also see why a lot of people presiding over this would go, if we lift the lid or punish this conflict of interest, more than half the industry must stop working. We're going to have problems.
I've got to go to work on Monday.
That's right. I would like to keep my job too. So I say play on.
I say play on as well.
That's right.
Yeah. Other news in the AFL, Pezza, is that St Kilda are trying to spunk a whole lot of cash and no one wants them.
Yeah.
Finn Callahan rejected $17 million from St Kilda.
It's a harsh story for St Kilda.
It is tough, isn't it?
Are we sure about Roscoe Lyon's direction? I'm just repeating things I've heard on SEN that I've been listening to this week. Roscoe. I've noticed tuning in. I've sort of followed the AFL. We've got an announcement about the footy media. We shouldn't sledge it too much.
Yeah.
But I just like the tone of concern and urgency in footy media.
Yep, sure.
You tune in the morning, Kane and Kingy, Gary and Tim, and they talk about serious things. Like that. There's a.
What is serious?
It's a serious thing. There's loaded agendas, tenor of urgency and concern. Like them, what's concerning me is youngsters in the footy at the moment, because we come through the match sims, as you know, not to be confused with the video game.
Yeah, and
we're into the preseason tournament, and we've had some issues with the guys who've gone high in the draft. Jagger Smith, Blues, ACL season, gone.
Yep.
Sam Lawler, he went one for Richmond, jaw.
Yep. Concussion, jaw,
he's
gone.
Mark McGaw. Yeah. And, this is the thing. When you watch a match sim or preseason footy, you have to, like, if you win the game, you have to like what you have to say, I'm really happy where the team's at.
Yes.
But if you lost, you say, I like what I saw anyway. I like the way they're setting up.
Yeah.
I like the way they're setting up.
I see, yeah.
You like that they're unveiling youngsters. You can see how the youngsters are going about it, but you also hold your breath because they don't have hard bodies yet.
Right.
Hard bodies coming into midfield.
Yeah.
Right. So I just love the term hard and mature bodies of youngsters coming into the midfield. This is the breath that you have to hold ahead of the AFL season. The other way that they like to promote the competition in the AFL is just to talk about who the best player is. There's a lot of like just top 30s, top 50s. You're talking your Dacos, your Cripper. Yeah.
One of the best things in sport, Pezza, is who's goat, like goats. We like talking about goats.
Yeah.
And then it's also who's shit. That's what we love talking about.
Bottom 20 players AFL, you're saying.
We like talking about who's a shit team, who wasn't as good as someone else, therefore they were shit. You know, there's no space for middle ground. There's no space for ninth in the league. You know, there's no space for that.
Yeah,
it must be who is the best ever. Even like conversations a couple of weeks ago was Isaac Heaney, not an A grader, pretty good player. IMO.
So where I'm from, if you call someone an A grader, you're calling him an A grade fuckwit.
Yeah. Hall of Fame coat.
Yeah. Which no one would ever say that about Isaac Heaney.
But they are getting to the point where the games need to start. And, of course, at the same time, when rugby league is chest beating because they're in Vegas and they've got the whole thing going on.
Well, it's broadcast money, it's halo effect, it's gambling dollars, it's Americans loving the sport.
Exactly.
China next.
It's projecting back home, you know? Different hours of the time. Like, we're all excited by the Vegas. The prospect of the one colour, that being greenbacks.
I want to say something positive about two people. Speaking of, like, players whose identity is not very good, guys who are in the podcast game, and I haven't thought about this before, but like Dill Buckley among the Kings, Dan Gorringe among the Kings.
Right.
Don't really. We've met Dill, haven't met Dan before. Right. Two guys who literally played in the Australian Football League.
Yeah, Like
absolute weapon play. You're a worldie to play in the league.
Yeah, A graders.
But no, that's my.
Sorry, no.
That they are forced to sort of say like, I wasn't very good at footy. It's like, mate, you played in the AFL.
Yeah.
You can play.
Yeah.
You know, but everyone's like, mate, wasn't really that good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be amazing to say that.
Just shout out to the 7 Footy Revolution.
Yeah, of course.
Under head of sport Chris Jones. Again, if you're not following the footy, and by that I mean Aussie rules, 7 have a show on or footy on every single night of the week on free-to-air TV.
Thank God.
Every single night of the week with ancillary shows, shoulder content.
Yeah.
They've hired everybody. They've poached everybody. Bruce McAvaney returns. Caro Wilson, Nick Rewald, Craig Hutchison, Scott Pendlebury, Kane Corns.
KC. And the Sunshine.
We got his book up there.
We got his book, yeah. Good read.
They got the agenda setters, unfiltered. I just want to say... Also, we got Toby Green's joining, Sam Doherty, Rebecca Madden's key presenter, Chad Wingard's transitioning into an expert commentator role.
Oh, okay.
Clarify, you can get it all on 7+, etc. This isn't an ad in any way. There's another show as well called the Sunday Footy Feast, and
that's a good show.
We have fended off a lot of. We've actually asked this to be embargoed as a piece of news.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're down in Melbourne and you're not talking about footy, that is Aussie rules, then you're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead as a business. And so it's really with great pleasure that we announced today that with no irony.
After fending off several offers.
And also wanting this to be embargoed. This is an exclusive to the Circus. But we will be joining Jason Richardson, Campbell Brown and Kate McCarthy on 7 Sunday Footy Feast. Yeah. For 5 weeks as a trial.
Before we sign with St Kilda. For $17 million.
The show runs from 12 till 2:30. We're doing a couple of segments talking about sport, I think, and other footy. So we've joined the Melbourne Footy Media set.
Yeah.
That'll kick off on March 16, or bounce, or whatever you call it.
And it's a Sharon, isn't it?
That's no word of a lie. Now, we wanted this as an exclusive. A lot of people have been wanting to write about it. There have been whispers. Tom Morris is in the air, etc.
Yeah,
McClure, Cleary, etc. But we are part of the Melbourne Media Footy set. I've never had a more engaged conversation with my father-in-law and my neighbours, despite everything that we've done.
Yep.
We're part of the Melbourne Footy Media now.
Yep.
The only time we got kind of as much cred down here was when we were part of the age quiz. When we were an answer to a question on the age quiz.
Yes, that's right. I remember that.
Of medium difficulty.
Yes, that's right.
So
also looking forward to doing that when we're in Chennai later in the year.
If you do have clips from local footy, send them through. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And we're going to be presenting that from Chennai.
That would be helpful. Boys, actually, at gmail.com if you want to send through any local footy stuff, you know, you and the boys, etc.
Who do you like this year?
Mate, I think that the best team this year won the comp last year, and they weren't even at their peak.
Yeah, I thought they played very well.
That is GWS. No, I think Brisbane are going to be good. I think GWS are going to be good. I think Hawthorn are going to be good.
Yeah, huge calls from me there.
Yeah,
they're literally the top three in the betting.
Really?
Which is not really.
I think Richmond's got the spoon again.
Okay.
If you know you go down the other end.
Yeah.
And everyone else is sort of in between.
Yeah.
How do you like the Swans?
I think there's a lot to suggest that they will be emotionally battered from what happened to them.
Yeah.
Which is completely separate to the experience that we're going to have as Sydney-siders, where when they play their first game in every game, we'll expect them to win. And we won't really know much about it, and we'll tune in a little bit more towards the semis and the finals. But
I think they make the 8. I wonder if they have that experience. Like I'll just compare them to Liverpool, my football team. So Jurgen Klopp, previous manager, wonderful manager, won it all, etc. But didn't quite the best out of the players in the last season or two.
Yep.
New manager comes in, all of a sudden top of the league, doing well in the Champions League, etc. So like the talent is there, maybe a new message and a bit more energy given out, because obviously Horse previously gave it everything. It's sort of a lock for a finals, really. It's sort of the best thing he could give you, along with several grand finals. But I just wonder, like, if a new message from old Coxie there, it might inspire the players. I don't think they're the best 3 teams.
I also think there's a lot of like young guys who are coming towards their peak as well. It's a good group. They're playing away from like the spotlight of Melbourne and stuff. There are a lot of guys who are just too good at footy to lose that many games.
Yeah,
that's what I think. And new message. Cox's been around for a while. I think they'll be fine.
Should we speak to the Prime Minister of Australia?
Yes, I think we should.
Yeah. So if you've made it this far, or you're skipping to this part, welcome. And if you hate listening to this, if you hate watching to this, welcome to you as well. It's almost trite to focus on negativity, because that's just a small minority. But it was our great honour and privilege to have the Prime Minister come into the studio here. Obviously, we've been doing stuff with cricket for a while, and
have the studio swept by the AFP twice.
It was a whole experience. If you want to listen to the experience of that, you actually go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Great Cricketer, if you want to do that. And listen to our experience there for 10 minutes or so. I think we started talking about some other stuff after that. It's just a wonderful honour and privilege to have speak to our second Prime Minister. The first one sitting in office, it should be said. Happy to talk to Mr. Dutton as well if he wants to come in. Happy to talk to anyone. We'll talk to anyone.
Mate, emails are open.
I think for a lot of people, they'll be stoked for us and proud of our journey.
Yeah, well,
maybe.
That's lame.
Yeah, that is
I'd rather know about people's politics and why it was wrong to do so, and that we're war criminals.
And
possibly.
we ask the wrong questions.
Yep.
Good point.
That's what I prefer.
All right.
But sorry about the chat that involves.
Yeah. Now,
Konstas, sports gambling, Modi, Bears, Vlandis, Trump, renewables versus nuclear.
If you are hate listening to this, I'm sorry, but this is actually a really enjoyable chat for an hour. So,
well, be the judge of that.
Here he is. Here's the PM.
This new show, The Circus, has a much larger brief than The Grade Cricketer. We're less in the weeds of one game, and we're more like flying at 50,000 feet. So as we considered, who might be the most appropriate first guest on the show of The Circus, which is obviously week after week of prestige narration from the hotbed of Australian sport, we asked ourselves, who's someone in the nation who also has a large brief? So we drew up a list and we thought, Jared, Corbin Middlemass.
Yeah.
Hewy.
He's
Hewy around.
He's Hewy around.
We thought, no, we're thinking too small. And the Roy and HG phrase, to get the bunny in motion, stuck with me. And for The Circus, who better to get the bunny in motion than one of the most devout bunnies around? A man who also doubles as a federal MP for Grandler and the 31st and incumbent Prime Minister of Australia. Here on the couch where many storied people have sat. Paul Kelly, Pat Cummins, Alex Malcolm.
Yeah.
So I'm, of course, talking about Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who joins us here Mr. Albanese, it's a pleasure to have you as the first guest on the circuit. Welcome to the orbit of the grade cricketer, and also welcome to the circus.
Well, fantastic. Some would say I work in a circus, according to some.
Exactly.
So probably an appropriate prompt for me to be invited on.
And thank you for also enduring our dog Florimo sitting by your feet there as well.
Flo's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a cool boy. Now, I know, you're probably expecting a softball interview here, Prime Minister, but you're going to get anything but that. And I just want to start with a hardcore political question. Prime Minister, with Labor holding just a 2-seat majority in the House of Reps and the Greens spoiling for a fight for some of those votes and Libs doing what they do, it's pretty clear the election's going to be fought on two fronts. So what strategy are you taking into this election from a sporting perspective? Is it percentage cricket a la Pat Cummins? Is it Bazball? Is it Jose Mourinho counterattack? Is it HokBall from Hawthorn? What's the strategy?
Well, it's a bit of making sure that we don't drop any balls. That is a start, but also making sure we show a bit of flair. We showed a bit of flair today, $8.5 billion to extend the tripling of the Medicare support, bulk billing incentive, that will see 90% of people bulk billed as the objective by 2030. So putting Medicare back at the front and centre. And, of course, that's a home game for us as well. You want the grand final that I've got coming up in a little while to be played on your home turf. Medicare's our home turf. It's foreign to the other side. And
they're not fans, are they? Don't they?
The Liberals have never liked it. Yeah. They've always tried to get rid of it because Gough Whitlam created Medibank, Fraser got rid of it, then John Howard promised to get rid of it and sort of backed off eventually. Peter Dutton, they came to office with Tony Abbott saying there'd be no cuts, and they ripped into it, $50 billion out of hospital funding and trying to put a tax every time people visit a GP. Or the thing that really gets me is they tried to put a tax on as well when you visit an emergency department of a hospital. No one visits there with their credit card at the ready. They usually visit in circumstance where they just need that care.
Mr. Prime Minister, I'm getting married in April. When's the election? Do I need to let my guests know that maybe vote early? Yeah. April 11 is the date, so just...
April 11.
We're recording on Sunday, by the way.
This is a Sunday,
So April 11, what day is that?
That's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
Yeah. And recovery Saturday.
Well, I can confirm that the election won't be on a Friday.
Thank you.
Interesting, okay. That's a scoop.
Yeah. We always have it on a Saturday.
Yeah.
But how about before I announce it, I text you on the way to see the Governor-General?
I will receive that text, yes.
Just for the guests
It'd be helpful for the guests, the catering.
You chuck it up on the website as well.
Yeah.
So just information.
Yeah. Well, you at least are organising yours.
Yeah.
I've been engaged for a year, but I can't organise it till we get through.
I suppose you've been busy. I've been less busy with the IPL and such.
Just a bit busy.
Oh, well, we had a few things on. We had the Bucks on the weekend.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
We went back home to Sydney. And the less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
I think what goes on tour stays.
It was very much that situation, Prime Minister. Yes, that's right.
Let's get into footy. Right, this is the circus. Yeah. We're broadening the brief beyond cricket. We will talk cricket. We've got some cricket questions, but we know you're native to rugby league. We know you're a big Hawks guy as well. We'll talk about that. But when we think about how to build safety in the Pacific region, and we do think about it, we usually talk about systemic approaches to security. We talk about defence. We talk about infrastructure development. We talk about aid. But what people have missed is that we also talk about NRL teams.
Absolutely.
How satisfying is it to have scuppered Xi Jinping's security pact aims by partnering with PNG to add a team in Port Moresby? And is it fair to say this is a case of making the nation safer through rugby league?
This is, I think, the best example of soft diplomacy that Australia's ever engaged in. I spoke with Prime Minister Marape today. Actually, he's in Australia. And they are just so excited. They celebrate 50 years of independence this year from Australia. And last year for Anzac Day, I walked with Prime Minister Marape, the first Australian Prime Minister to walk Kokoda and the first PNG Prime Minister, and we did it together. And the thing that was amazing was you're in the thickest jungle that you can possibly imagine, and really paying tribute to the diggers and wondering how on earth they did it with the Japanese forces firing on them and everything else they had to put up with, the malaria and all of the rain and the conditions just being diabolical. And, of course, the blokes who headed up there, their stories, I read quite a few books before I travelled. Some of them brought their tennis gear and tennis rackets and cricket bats and things because they thought they were going to an exotic location.
Right.
Wasn't quite the same technology and access to information we have now. And they were largely Victorians.
Right.
And so very different to go from the streets of Melbourne to the jungles of Kokoda. And when you go through, you're going through thick forests and jungle, and the guides say to you with every hill, when you say, how long to go to the break? And everyone's just one more hill, and there's always just one more hill. They just keep you going. But then you go into a plateau, a flat area that was cleared, and a village would be there. And every kid would have a Queensland Origin jumper on, or a Cowboys jumper, or of course there is a random South guy, always is, wherever you go in the world. And they just loved their rugby league. Unlike anywhere, I think, in the world, they love their rugby league. And I reckon in 10 years' time, they are going to be such a success. And it's a way of lifting up the whole country as well, because in order to play rugby league, you're going to have to finish school, and you're going to have to make sure that you go through all of those processes. It will lead to a healthier society. It will lead to infrastructure investment. Australians will go up there for home games when PNG are hosting. It'll be fantastic for that dialogue between our two countries. And in addition to that, some of the money is going into development in Samoa and Tonga as well, where they're so passionate. If you think about the population of Tonga and Samoa, that's pretty small, and how good their teams are. If you think about PNG, they don't know how many people in PNG live there, but it's at least 15 million, and they all love rugby league, and I think they'll be a powerhouse in the future, and it's just a great way of sharing our values and our culture, and I think it'll be a huge success.
You mentioned about the Random Souths guy. For those who don't follow rugby league, Random Souths guy is just a guy who'll be at WrestleMania in the crowd, who's wearing a South Sydney Rabbitohs jersey, like Coachella, a Trump rally, the Tour de France, you know. Like
Wimbledon. Always someone at a Wimbledon final.
Yeah. Where's the most
Bowl.
random you've seen a Random Souths guy? Perhaps the House of Representatives.
Well,
there's one here now.
Yeah, there's one here now, yeah.
Actually, in Melbourne, at a dinner.
That is pretty random.
Melbourne, yeah.
At a dinner.
That's good.
At a dinner 5 years ago, I was being introduced. I was a guest speaker as a Labor leader at the time, opposition leader. And the person introducing me was a doggish fan, Canterbury Bulldogs. And they sledged me on the way through. And I stood up and I began my speech by saying, look, even in Melbourne, there's got to be a Random South guy here. And this voice came out from the audience saying, up the Rabbitohs. I said, see, there's always one, and that woman is now my fiancée.
Oh, really?
Jodie Hayden.
Wow.
That is how we met, literally.
Wow.
So Random South guys or Random South girls.
Well, did you learn later that she's not a fan at all, but she was just interested in you?
No. She's very passionate, second generation.
Right.
Her mum and dad were at the Charity Shield yesterday at Madge.
Okay.
They go to every game, and she's a genuine fanatic like me.
Yeah.
And so it's great, actually, to have a partner who genuinely wants to go to the footy with you as opposed to you dragging them along.
Yeah.
So speaking of going to the footy, Prime Minister, you would likely have seen Mr. Vlandis in Rugby League, PVL, issue US President Trump a compelling invitation to witness the Vegas showpiece. He was holding a Steedon with President Trump's name on it.
Yeah.
He was complimenting the show Fox and Friends, describing it as a great program, extremely fair and balanced, noting Australia's trade surplus with the US. Congrats. So, as a man well versed in matters of diplomacy, persuasion, and statecraft, you yourself will have received a cornucopia of invitations from people to attend things. How would you rate PVL's approach to the president? And will you be lending your own talents to encourage Mr. Trump to head to Vegas to watch Isaiah Yeo and Cam McInnes, etc.?
Well, he's a force of nature, Peter V'landys. He really is. He's rung me about the invite and to press Ambassador Rudd to get on and to push this home. When I spoke with President Trump a couple of weeks ago, of course, it was just after the Super Bowl, and Jordan Mailata had won with the Eagles, the first Australian to get a Super Bowl ring. And I raised this with the President, pointed out that he was a Souths junior, that I had been on the board of Souths in the 90s and the noughties.
Yes.
And that some of the owners of Souths were people that he would know, James Packer and Russell Crowe. And so I've done my bit to pitch in there early.
Sorry, what did he say?
What did he say?
I was on the board with George Piggins. We
got him back.
Andrew Denton, you might remember from enough.
George Piggins, he wouldn't be as familiar with.
Yeah.
Andrew Denton, he might know from sledging him. So, no, but it was a good part of when you're trying to build a relationship with someone. Sport can be an avenue. We raised, of course, now that you can cross across all sport, I raised Greg Norman, who he does know, and Greg Norman we've appointed to the Brisbane Olympics board recently. So it was a wide-ranging discussion, AUKUS, the future of the world, and Greg Norman and South Juniors.
Well, just closer to home domestically on rugby league, and this is probably the most earnest question I'm going to ask. You were there front and centre when Souths marched the streets for re-inclusion in the NRL. It was just and it was right, but there was a sadness for me as a North Sydney Bears fan. We sit here with a dog named after Greg Florimo. I was a Bears diehard, still am. I was only 15 at the time, and our club was unable to muster the kind of public outrage and sentiment that Souths was, for example, even though it was a foundation club. And yet, we don't go away. We're always ready to come back, the Bears, in whatever form. Right now with WA, PVL supports it. Your colleague Roger Cook is they're in the press going back and forth. I tend to think it's a good thing from a negotiation point of view. They're trying to get going with WA. Does Prime Minister Albanese support the just and rightful return of the red and black, the Bears, to top flight rugby league?
Well, I do. I'd also like to see Newdown come back at some stage. I've got to say that as someone who loves sitting on the hill at Henson Park, which is something I did growing up quite a bit as well. Where I grew up, you were either South, Newdown, or Balmain. They were the three sort of areas, and it split between the supporter bases. But the traditional clubs, I think, are really important. And it'd be great if the Bears can come back. It's good that people have hung in there for so long. And when we got kicked out of the comp, I mean, you had the Northern Eagles debacle with, fancy teaming up with Manly.
Manly fan, by the way.
What was going to go wrong there?
And play Gosford.
But South, we had some fantastic songs and ditties. One was, we all stand together so that South can stand alone. And it was a fantastic campaign. I was on the board at the time. When we lost the court case, there was one big rally. And we lost the court case, and they said, you're not allowed to play together. You're out of the comp. And we were pretty devastated. We'd been kicked out, but this was trying to get back. And we'd had some, frankly, rubbish trial games to try and keep momentum going. We played the American Eagles, before a crowd of 500 at Redfern Oval or something. But we decided to have a rally again, to have another crack, see if people are with us or not. and over 100,000 people turned up and marched from Redfern right through to Sydney Town Hall. And it was incredible momentum there. And then we won the court case and got readmitted, and we got to win the comp in 2014, first time since 1971, 43 years between drinks. But that passionate support that people had, I remember at the time, it's similar with the Bears. People were like, people can just go support another club. And it was like, you don't understand. It's about your identity and who you are. People who ask me, does my son Nathan support South? I say, yeah, he had choices, but he chose to sleep inside.
He liked to remain part of the family.
It's that level. Yeah, exactly. And my mum, I've still got, now it's at the lodge, this old bunny that belonged to my grandparents, that's sort of really pretty decrepit. But it is a part of that history of who you are. And that's the great thing about team sport. I reckon team sports build communities, whether it be playing, young kids learn to win and lose, they learn teamwork and social skills, but also you gather with your friends. We all, the board members who were part of getting us back in the comp, we all gathered at the grand final in 2014 with our families. So it was Ray Martin and Andrew Denton and Nick Pappas, who was a lawyer during it all, and myself and Mikey Robbins. It was just a fantastic thing, and we still all engage. When Cam Murray got hurt
and Latrell
with the injury, and Latrell, Cam with the Achilles is a pretty bad accident to happen. We're all texting each other. Russell Crowe texting us about it. It's a part of that engagement.
And what about the Hawks? Where does your fandom for the Hawks come in? And how do you find the difference between fandom of AFL compared to the NRL?
Oh, look, I love the way that AFL fans, and particularly I'm in this town, Melbourne, there's nothing better than the walk to the G and everyone walking there and all of that atmosphere. When I was a kid, I played rugby league. You could play rugby league or rugby league. All the choices were available to you. But I had an uncle who lived near where I used to play, Queen's Park at Waverley. It was the Eastern Suburbs comp when I was a bit older. Early, from under sixes, I played in the South District and then Newtown and then East. My school played there. And I used to go and watch the match of the day. I think it was 1:10 every afternoon. And if you're a South fan, if you think about the old VFL clubs, Richmond Tigers were Balmain Tigers.
Yeah.
Collingwood Magpies and Western Suburbs Magpies. And, the Footscray were the
Dogs.
The red, white and blue, so the Roosters.
Yeah.
So you couldn't, there was nothing that you could do that was not connected. Carlton Blues, Newtown Blue Bags. So no one has green and red, of course, in the VFL.
Yeah.
So the team they're not the greatest colours, my teams, in terms of when you're trying to sell merch. Green and red and brown and gold. But I started supporting the Hawks, and of course they had a pretty good team. Peter Hudson, legend, and then all the way through with Dermy and Jason Dunstall and everyone. So I was always a Hawks fan. And when Sydney came up, South Melbourne came up and became the Sydney Swans, I actually was a member for a while, but still a Hawks supporter, because you can't change teams.
You can't change teams.
You can't change teams. And
some people try.
Yeah.
People try.
People
in
do,
politics.
They do. But you can't.
Yeah.
In my view, you just can't.
No.
So, if Sydney are playing anyone other than Hawthorn, great.
You're good to go,
But it's been a bit difficult with, a grand final. And when the Hawks beat the Swans and, everyone assumed I was I was on the other side.
Yeah.
But you can't change teams. And I used to come down to games here, and just the atmosphere is, crowds in Melbourne are much bigger than rugby league crowds in Sydney, of course, as you know. And so my first grand final was 89, the great grand final between Hawks and Geelong. Ablett kicked 9 in a losing side.
Yeah.
And great day for him.
It was an amazing game. We were up there, right up the back of the stand. There was no cover over, so it would have been maybe where the Great Southern is now.
Right.
And there was a block of Hawthorn supporters and a block of Geelong supporters, throwing things at each other and carrying on. It was a pretty good day. And then a couple of years later, went to the only grand final, of course, at Waverley. But see the Hawks beat West Coast. And we began at the Hawthorn Social Club at Glenferrie with many a beer early before the bus trip out there. And then back at Glenferrie afterwards when the team came back was awesome. And then, of course, we had the three-peat, a decade ago now, or a bit over a decade ago it began. And, they've been a great side.
Well, what about people who try and police how one supports a team, I mean, you've copped this, particularly as a politician. There's always going to be a cynicism or a skepticism from the people who consider themselves the nailed on or police of how you're meant to support. So, you've already spoken about this, but I've got this from Tony Jones last year when you were in the Hawks team song. These are the people that try to insert themselves into finals football when maybe they should stay in their lane, and then Nathan Brown takes over. I feel like the Prime Minister, this was for the good of himself going into the Hawthorn rooms. This sickens me.
They're pretty hard line.
They get sick. Tony Jones earlier in the season said, I was almost sick yesterday when I looked at the Hawthorn club song and their front said it was a Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. He has no interest in AFL. The reason I say this, firstly, I mean, AFL fans are very passionate and they get sick, obviously, if the wrong thing happens. But there's a funny thing, isn't there, in Australia around, or everywhere around, the way you're meant to support a team. I mean, clearly you're native to rugby league and you've grown up with the Bunnies, etc. You've adopted Hawthorn as any sports-loving person might have adopted a team, right?
Yeah. But I've always supported the AFL as well. It's a magnificent game to watch live. And I enjoy it. And I've been a genuine fan of the team for a long period of time. It was funny when they came out, I had Jeff Kennett out there defending me. He probably wouldn't defend me on anything else. But he knows I've been with him way back. I think it was one of the three-peat when we beat the Swans, and he knows how hard that was. And I've been to many a Hawks game, and all the Richard Collis and the Swans people have tried to convert me over the years. Nathan's a Swans supporter. They got him. He was a D's supporter for a while.
Right.
Because he was at Monaco. I was doing a citizenship ceremony. He was a little boy when I was a minister in the Rudd government. And it was a Sydney D's game, and Jimmy Steins took him into the dressing room, and he just fell in love with the D's. And he played soccer for a while with the Marrickville Red Devils, a similar thing. So he did that.
Then you got to watch out. You got to watch out. My boys like Sydney as well, but like my wife works in hospitals, and she talks about kids being born, and the nurses will place a Geelong beanie on the newborn's head as the parents are out of the room, and the parents are like, no, please take it off. That's not the team they're allowed to support.
Yeah.
Well, he then went to, he played AFL for the Newdown Swans.
Oh, nice.
And it's been a pretty good club, and it was a great thing to do. And so I myself made my AFL debut over the age of 50. Note for any listeners, don't do that. Do it under 50, not over 50, with Community Cup that's played at Henson Park in my electorate. And but that was good fun. Played a few games there, and didn't do all that well, I got to say. But I was a kicker when I played rugby league.
Yeah.
So I could always kick
Strike
a ball.
it, okay, yeah. We're going to talk about cricket. So now when Sam Konstas turned up to your place wearing the green Sambas, now I'm wearing the green Gazelles today in solidarity with Sam. Yeah, I got you, brother. Were you aware that Sam was rocking the green Sambas there?
Sam was pretty cool.
He was all right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a red and green one.
Okay.
Myself. So,
Nice. So you didn't take offence to his footwear. A lot of people were policing his footwear.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, for goodness sake. It was a really good event, and both teams got on really well.
Yeah.
And when the PM's 11 played, of course, Sam Konstas got picked in that team as well.
Yeah, that's right.
And did very well.
Yes.
And so, but they all got on magnificently, and my doctor, in a moment which will see me get good health care forever as well. One of my doctors, local GPs, is Dr. Raj, and he is a Virat Kohli fan. And Virat Kohli, I've got to say, I said, was there any chance you could sign something for someone who looks after me as a local doctor? And yes, I got a shirt, presented that to Dr. Raj, who is probably still wearing it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's probably underneath everything. Every day.
So he's there with the Prime Minister. Your doctor is with the Prime Minister, but the doctor wants something from somebody above that for him. And that person's Virat Kohli. That's how it works, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, what about when you were in Ahmedabad in 2023, when it was over there? Now, you and Prime Minister Modi are on a float going around the stadium. You're also then arm in arm next to Steve Smith singing the national anthem.
Just loves getting in on songs.
Just loves getting in on songs. Now, how bizarre was that going around on a float in Ahmedabad?
It was extraordinary.
I bet it was,
it's the only time that the Australian team tell me they didn't get to warm up on the field.
Yeah, that's right.
Because there were Bollywood dancers, and it is the Narendra Modi Stadium.
Yeah, that's right.
Imagine what would happen to an Australian politician in office.
Which one are you going to
naming a 120,000 seat stadium after themselves?
Maybe like a Homebush.
I'm not sure they go down as well. But
the new Bears team, we'll take anything.
It was absolutely fantastic. It was not expected. So they had it looked like the Game of Thrones backdrop.
You did, yeah.
It had, except it was stumps and bats,
right?
And it was essentially like a golf buggy. And there was someone on the front driving it. And we went around the stadium, and at that time, there were like 80,000, 90,000 people there. And they were just cheering, going
Albo,
going crazy. Well, as we went around, I said to Prime Minister Modi, who I get on with very well.
The boss.
And I said to him, you're very popular. And he said to me, no, they're cheering you, Prime Minister. I said, mate, they don't know who I am. And he looked across at the sight board that had my photo and his photo on, and the drops, the banners that were like 100 metres tall from the top of the stadium to the bottom, with Modi, then Albanese, then Modi, then Albanese. And he pointed at them, he said, they do now.
So... Are you considering maybe Boxing Day test this summer?
I'm not sure it would work here.
Yeah,
I think we have a different culture.
Kids farmer.
Different culture here. And Smithy was very generous. We were out there on the field for the anthems, and he said to us, we presented the caps to the captains beforehand, and he said to me, "Come and join on the song." And I said, "Oh no, that's for the players." And he was like, you're the Australian Prime Minister. It's
Really?
our anthem.
So he pulled you in?
Yeah, pulled us in, put his arm around us, and it was extraordinary moment. It's very generous of him, to say the least, but he's a lovely bloke.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
We often hear the phrase "keep politics."
Pretty
out.
handy cricketer.
Yeah,
too.
he can play. He can play. Yeah,
He's okay.
That's a controversial
Four
call.
tons in the last 5 tests.
Oh, how good is it to have him back?
Yeah,
he's found his hands and his eyes.
has.
His eyes were painted on for a bit, but they're back.
He couldn't see the ball for a while. But now he can.
Now he can.
The point.
Really
It's
good.
the point. We do hear the phrase "keep politics out of sport," which is a misnomer when teams literally represent a nation state. But,
There is that.
there is that. It's hard to separate when it is a nation state.
Keep him out.
Look, I want to ask about the sandpaper scandal because there was a prime ministerial element to it before your time. A lot of people say it only became a matter of international significance when the then Prime Minister Turnbull publicly condemned it. So, do you take the view that incident called for prime ministerial comment, or are you more of the view that every country was working on the ball at the time? Okay, sandpaper down the pants is a bit how you're going, but let's face it, they weren't getting it to go in Newlands anyway.
Yeah. Starkey had to go in reverse, though.
It probably wasn't in the spirit of the game, to say the least. But
Everyone's doing it, though, really.
I think it's all moved on now. And, Steve Smith paid a price for it. And, I do think that on a whole range of those things, let the administrators run it themselves. But it was a big price that they paid.
Especially when every other country was getting it working as well.
Yeah.
Fair bit going on.
Hey, that's a great quote. There was a fair bit going on. I agree.
I agree with that.
All right, renewables versus nuclear, Prime Minister. Cummins versus JL. Should I get a solar panel on my roof or a nuclear reactor in my backyard?
Go with Paddy Cummins, mate.
Solar panel.
JL has, look, to be fair to JL, who's a decent man, get on with him very well. He has written publicly about being open minded to all sorts of energy sources and the truth of nuclear power and stuff. So
that's fine. It just doesn't work here. Doesn't stack up financially. That's the point.
So you're coming solar panels
is where it does. Well, Paddy Cummins, I just think he's got it all. It's a bit unfair for a bloke to be that talented, that good looking.
It's James Bond, yeah.
Do you worry it's too
charming?
perfect?
Yeah.
But he is that nice.
Yeah.
Like he really is.
Yeah.
He's just unbelievable.
He's a class act.
Yeah.
He is so good. And he's modern and isn't frightened of saying it either, of speaking out about issues like climate change, and why shouldn't he? He's just had another little one. We've got to be concerned about the planet that the next generation will inherit.
I'd like to ask you a question, Prime Minister, about betting or gambling in sports, right? So you had a proposal to curb gambling ads, which, as I understand it, would mean limited ads for an hour either side of live sports events, right? So, and there was some discussions about in-stadium advertising for gambling and shirt sponsor stuff as well, right? So as I understand it, you spoke with all the heads of sports and the TV networks. I believe you then were also personally lobbied by the heads of the NRL and AFL against the idea of curbing gambling ads. So I know, shocking, yeah. So the policy is now going to be announced post-election, I understand. So now, me personally, I suppose I'm quite libertarian in the sense that if you want to gamble, I think you should be able to do that if you want to. Now, like what annoys me as a fan of sports is that like it's being drilled into my brain every 15 seconds, and it's like I feel like I'm being punished because I love sport, right? But like if you want to punt, go and have a punt, like whatever, right? So I suppose what I'm asking, like what are the challenges that you face when you're proposing something which is obviously going to upset a lot of people like that?
Well, what you've got to do is make sure that there aren't unintended consequences of what you're doing. But we've done more to curb problem gambling than any government since Federation. We've changed, remember those benign things, gamble responsibly. What did that mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now the messages say things like, you're going to lose.
Right.
Basically is what they tell people, which is true. That's the basis of the system. One of the things we've done as well is to say to the sports, change is coming. How about it's not a great idea to have, various sporting gambling things on shirts, because it's just a bit wrong, really, in my view. We also have made a range of changes. You can't use credit cards on to gamble.
Yep.
We've introduced Bet Stop so people can register so that there's self-regulation. Basically, people putting their hand up saying, I've got a problem and I need help to stop betting. And that's what the Bet Stop program does. In addition to that, we're working through the regulations of restrictions, but we need to make sure we get it right as well. And we need to make sure we don't then go, oh, well, okay, that's you've banned it for 1 hour. What about banning it for ever?
Right.
In terms of you're not allowed to gamble.
Yeah.
So I don't go there either. I have the same view you do. The adults, have a right to participate in gambling. Isn't the problem the odd bet? The problem is problem gambling.
Right.
When people are addicted and so some of those issues need to be looked at as well. But it's not as simple either as some would have the campaign believe, essentially. Overwhelmingly, the problem with problem gambling in Australia is poker machines.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly number one. Second is actually things like lottos and tickets, lottery tickets, all of that as well. Then below that is sporting betting. You need to make sure as well that you ban things here and you don't just push it offshore.
Right.
In terms of with the internet and with online stuff, a lot of that is difficult to regulate properly. So it's a complex area. We are moving piece by piece, and where people are on notice that there is more to be done.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, just for follow up, if that's possible, I share the same view as both of you as well. Everyone's got a right to do it and to punt. We without wanting to, you feel like as a sports entity, even just saying that we don't take gambling advertising. It's hard for podcasts or digital entities to even fund themselves without gambling dollars. We say no because we just think it's inherently unfunny, and kids listen to the show.
Sure.
We don't want to say all those words at the end that you have to say. But anyone else who wants to, that's fine. The thing that I struggle with the gambling discourse is when invariably somebody who is pro-gambling or pro-gambling advertising will say, listen, if you strip this money away, kids won't be able to play sport. They've got their tentacles in there. That it'll take the that this is the life. What problem do we have when the lifeblood of children's sport is really propped up by gambling funding?
Sure.
So that is a hard thing to untangle, I imagine.
Sure. And kids sport is so important. And the funding of kids sport is something that needs to be looked at. We get criticised sometimes for funding sporting activities. I was at Wollongong on Friday night, funding through the government, at Wynn Stadium we made the announcement, but it's a really interesting example of it's a joint venture, if you like, between St George Dragons, it's St George Illawarra Dragons, of course, and the University of Wollongong, and it's combining education together with sport and community. So it'll be a centre of excellence, but it will involve kids and junior sports. It will involve sports science as well through the University of Wollongong and education programs. And part of the education programs will be about teaching kids about, some of the dangers that are out there, problem gambling, vaping, various things that are there as well. It's a big dilemma that we have, but I really think that team-based sport for kids is so important because they do learn all those social skills and get to engage and lead to better health outcomes as well.
Yeah. Now, surely in this election, one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing, is just how bloody expensive everything is, right? Cost of living crisis. Now, in terms of election promises, if you could promise a 5-0 Ashes whitewash, that'll go a long way. But at the same time, can you make things a bit cheaper, for the old weekly shop there? You know what I mean?
I think the first thing is Paddy Cummins will be on board for that 5-0.
Yeah, I think so.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
And you got to say after the Champions League overnight, pretty good. Pretty good outcome.
Pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good.
Josh Inglis is hitting a unbeaten ton.
Yeah.
So
now, what about the Woolly shop?
The prospects are good. Well, all of that. We've got inflation down to 2.4.
You've got it down. Okay.
And it was 6 when we came into government.
Okay.
Had a 6 in front of it and was going up. Now it's got a 2 in front of it and it's going down. So that's a plus as well. Wages were going down 5 quarters in a row. Now they're going up 5 quarters in a row. We've given a tax cut to every taxpayer. So we know people have been doing it tough. It's a global inflation problem. Overseas, it hit double digits.
Yeah.
So whilst it's been tough here, if you look overseas, countries in New Zealand, across the ditch, they're in a deep recession at the moment with real pressure on them, including unemployment. And our task has been, how do you get inflation down whilst keeping employment strong? And we've managed to do that.
I mean, it's a pretty tough gig, isn't it? There'll be people going to the polls who will be like, well, under this Prime Minister, things are more expensive. And you're like, it's more of a global trend. It wasn't me necessarily.
Why'd you do that?
Yeah, but people are ruthless, right?
We're clamping down on,
I know you're doing a good job relative to others, right? But people just do that. They go to the polls and go like, it's more expensive.
And supermarkets, they had a voluntary code of conduct. We've mandated it.
Yeah.
Holding them to account as well, the big duopoly, basically, Woolies and Coles in Australia. And people quite rightly had the shits when things happen like prices going up by $1, then coming down by 50 cents and calling it a special. Those sort of things really justifiably annoyed people.
Totally,
and we've clamped down on all of that.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to formulate this question. I probably should have written it, but just on that point of, trying, we live in a country where I presume you want to persuade people that their life is better under this government, and you've got to conduct this simultaneous, walking between raindrops dance of saying your life is better, but also I'm lifting people up whose lives are disadvantaged systemically as well, which does actually require some take or give from people to do that. I mean, how do you do both at the same time? You can pursue your ambitions, but by the same token, you have to help people, put your hand down to help people up. That's got to be a tough thing to do.
Well, I sum it up with 2 phrases I use regularly, which is no one left behind. That is, you've got a responsibility in society to look after the most vulnerable. But also no one held back. You want people to have opportunities in life to be better, no matter what your station is, to have higher living standards and to aspire to a better life. And that's what we all want for our kids as well. And so I reckon the gutsiest decision we've made is to say the tax cuts that had been legislated, we were going to stop it and take $4,500 away from the tax cut I was going to get to make sure that people who are low and middle income earners get more, that everyone was going to get a tax cut. And that was a difficult argument. Some would say at the time they called it brave in that term, but it's the right thing to do. But at the same time, things like free TAFE and what we're doing at the universities, cheaper childcare, all of those things are about creating opportunity for people to be the best that they can be. And similarly, the work we're doing on a future made in Australia, making more things here, the transition to net zero is real, and that represents a challenge, but it's also an incredible opportunity for Australia because of everything we have under the ground and in the sky. You know, the best solar resources in the world we have here in Australia, and so that represents an opportunity for us.
In terms of like lifting up the mood of the nation, have you thought about like just storming around town in a full Wallabies tracksuit? You know? Like a la Mr. Howard, you know?
I think that's been done before.
But like how that made us feel, Prime Minister,
storming.
you know? Well, you know, just sort of floating around town then perhaps, you know, in a full Wallabies, maybe a Tilly's. You know, maybe Matilda's kit, you know?
Well, the Tillies did lift the whole country.
They did. Not lately, but, you know, but at the time, you know, but like seeing the Prime Minister.
Japan games were, of course, yeah.
But it didn't happen here. So
legal matters.
It didn't happen. You know, have you thought about maybe just dressing yourself in kit, just walking around?
Well, you know,
I play for the Wallabies.
That has been tried. And
it has.
You wouldn't want to invoke the same image as well as that?
No, John Howard isn't really my role model, but... you know, I
good bowler.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Roll out a couple of offies.
Almost hit his feet. I never. My team will go into a panic when they see me doing as you end up doing.
That's got to be. Yeah, I mean,
shoot hoops or you know, bowl or bat.
What do you think? Are you like, no, just give me the ball? I want to play.
I did. I was out at Cardinia Park for an announcement years ago, and with Joel Selwood started doing kick to kick, and it started, you know, 5 metres away, and then 10.
And everyone's thinking the same thing. Let's get the PM.
And then 20.
Big old torp. Here we go.
And it was like, hurly-durly, I've done sort of about half a dozen here, and we're getting further and further away. You could see the sweat on the brow of my media advisor going, if he just drops one, that's the one that will make the news.
Yeah, that's right. Course, and you're like, just get me in the pocket here, check side, let's go.
And I got it. I got there. So I then stopped after about half a dozen. But we were a fair way away by then. So I was pretty happy with how that went.
So some politicians can play. Like Obama can shoot hoops. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You got any skills like that? Like, could you ball like Obama?
You have a bit of tennis.
I still play in the Sydney Badge tennis comp for Marrickville.
Yeah,
nice.
And it's quite good fun now because if I turn up, I only made 4 rounds last year, but mind you, there are a couple of washouts as well. There's 8 teams in each grade, so it's home and away. You play 14 rounds, and we didn't make the finals, unfortunately, last year. It wasn't our finest year, but I turn up now, and of course, things are a bit different from what they were a few years ago. I have friends with me who have to come and check our venues in advance. But
you've got the AFP as ball boys.
It's fantastic because tennis is a great sport because it's a pretty simple game, really. Hit the ball over the net between the lines.
Right.
And there isn't downtime. Whereas if you're, you know, playing footy, you could be hiding in the forward pocket waiting for the ball to come down. Or cricket, you're standing around unless you're batting and even between balls. Tennis is pretty much on the go for 3 hours. You play 4 sets of doubles in a match, and it's just fantastic for my mental health.
Yeah.
And people are pretty good, although... my partners have woken up now this season about halfway through a couple of games. A mate who I normally partner with said, I don't think I want to partner with you anymore. And I said, why not? And he said, have you noticed how hard everyone tries to beat the Prime Minister?
Yeah, of course.
So that they can go to the pub and brag about it that night.
Totally.
Whereas the other team, before your PM, it's like pretty relaxed. Like it's not Wimbledon. It's low grade, and we, a bunch of old blokes having a crack.
Yeah.
And I worked out last year we got done by a team at Roseville, an away game, and afterwards they were pretty pumped and everything else. And I asked them how old they all were, and the combined ages of their 4 versus our 4, I think it was 123 years we were older than their team. So I reckon
and also you put them in jail.
I reckon we did pretty good.
I've got a serious question for you, Prime Minister, about the media. For example, there'll be a number of people watching or listening today for whom the mere act of us interviewing you, or let's face it, if we interviewed anybody in public life who takes a position on anything, will upset that audience member, because it seems like that's the relationship a lot of people have with media, especially news media, whether it's establishment media or social media, in the comments section or whatever. Negativity and provocation captures attention, or seems to, more profitably than other ways of telling stories. Do you think that's a confection of the media business? You know, the media business has made it so, driving division for profit, or do you think that division is natural and it reveals something inherent in us, and that all you can do is just argue for, the best position possible and go into battle for it and just play on? I'm asking as someone who is in a world of professional verbal combat and your life wisdom on that.
I certainly don't think it's natural. And I said before the last election that I thought people had conflict fatigue. And people don't want people yelling at each other. You look at the state of American politics at the moment is, I think, an example of that. And you should be able to have civil discourse, have differences, but still maintain respect. But I think there's 2 things happening simultaneously, which is adding to a decline in civility. One is social media and people saying things to you online that they would never say to your face in an anonymous way. And it's pretty gutless, frankly. But it is extraordinary what people will say, completely made up or just be quite, so vicious against people who they don't know. And I think, whatever differences I might have with people in politics, I think overwhelmingly people go into it from the right motive. Different perspectives, but they're in it not for themselves. I think overwhelmingly that's the case, whether it's Labor, Liberal, Nat, Green, Independent, what have you. But I think the second thing that's happening as well, and it really hit home to me, there was a story recently that was just complete bollocks. And I don't often ring people who are editors or what have you. I'm not one of those people, but I have from time to time. And when I said to someone, this is so unreasonable, they were like, oh yeah, but it's about the clicks. So the headlines that often you'll see on one of the news channels, someone on there saying something over the top, and then the article, in order to get clicks, will be, Albanese accused of blah, which has no basis, nothing to back it up, but it being there will add clicks on.
Which means advertisers and,
Yeah, which is, I think that's a really unhealthy product. I don't have a solution, but I do think it's a fact of what is happening. And that leads to an undermining of, what we have in common in terms of a society as well. It used to be, don't be one of those people who completely romanticise the past. There's a lot of great things about people having devices in their pocket and getting information at their fingertips. But it used to be that how people got information, everyone saw the same news and things were factual. There is now a whole lot of newspapers that are mainly opinion rather than fact as well. And I think that is really unfortunate, that decline. And I think that's one of the reasons. The plus is, to give the Potter a plug here, it's one of the reasons why people are looking at mediums like this one, because it's just people talking. It's not cantankerous. It's not aimed at scoring a hit or having a crack or doing a gotcha. It's just people having a chat. And there's a reason why that is becoming more and more popular, I think, is because people are sick and tired of discourse being people yelling at each other and trying to score a point.
Totally.
Final one from me, Prime Minister, before we let you go. It's just a hypothetical. You talked about civil discourse and people with reasonable perspectives on all sides. So if I could ask you for, say, like a slips cordon of the best parliamentarians or MPs that you've come across. So you've got a keeper, let's say, and 4 slips. And who would you want there to combine the best chat? So as in, who's the best sledger, maybe question time, etc., but who can also get things done, i.e. take the catch. And you've got to include people from the other side as well.
Well, of course, my predecessor, Scott Morrison, would probably appoint himself as wicketkeeper, first slip, second slip, third slip, and fourth slip. So that would sort all that out.
He was running drinks for the PM's 11, wasn't he?
He's under the lid as well.
He's under the lid, yeah.
all done. So that'd sort that out. The best sledger, of course, is the great Paul Keating.
Yeah.
And so you'd have to have...
He's there.
You'd have to have Paul in there.
Yeah.
I reckon Tony Burke.
Okay.
It'd be pretty good as well. Penny Wong.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Penny Wong's, I think her stare when she's unhappy, that would just freak any batter out. Completely. So I think you would have that. You'd have Dutton would be good at sledging, but it'd drop everything.
So is he good at sledging? Has he got good good game for Has he got good chat in question time? Like, does he say anything? You go, that's not bad.
Yeah.
He tries to have a crack, as did Morrison. But I always say to them, I say to him the same thing I said to Morrison, which is, mate, I came through the New South Wales Labor Party. Like, you're nowhere near as tough as where I came through. It's.
It's not like when you're batting, like you can't, like someone can sledge you and you're like, that's good. That's a good sledge. It's not bad.
Good. Yeah, not
you can't
bad.
show it. Be like, was there anyone from the other side during question time?
Christopher Pine.
Pine, Pine would be good,
yeah. And his legendary retirement speech where he said, I don't have a log cabin story, but I too once had to get my own lemon for my gin and tonic.
That's good.
He's known hardship, Christopher. But Christopher and I got on very well, and we still get on. And so that's a good thing.
Well, Prime Minister, thank you so much for your time. It's been a huge privilege for us to have you here in person, to meet my kids and Florimo and the team, and to traverse the important topics.
Florimo we've put to sleep here.
Wow.
Yeah.
He usually comes on the couch.
He's very chilled. He can probably smell my Toto. Who's a bit more lively. Even though she's older. But Florimo's a really cool dog.
Yeah, he's been more chilled than he normally is. He's normally sort of bounding around. So I don't know if it's the AFP here or.
I know I have a friend who has a cat named Billy, named after Billy Moore.
Oh, there you
Another
go.
North Sydney.
Wow, okay.
See, I thought when I went up to the real Greg Florimo to tell him, like, look, there's a dog named after you, I was so excited because he was my hero as a kid. It was actually strange that it was on the day Brexit happened, but anyway, that's a different thing. But and
was he impressed?
No, he said, "Oh yeah, it was a greyhound named after me as well." So I was just joining the queue of dogs named after Greg Florimer, which just goes to show how much passion there is for the Bears out there.
I've got there's a dog called Albo. There's a cat called Albo lives in Redfern. There was a chicken as well, but it got ate by a fox. My media advisor. That was not a good day.
No, I doubt.
Not a good day.
And soon there'll be 120,000 seater stadium called Albo as well.
Yeah.
And
in North Sydney.
Any day, home of the Bears. North Sydney Oval.
Yeah.
And what sort of a name is North Sydney Oval?
Well, there we go.
We'll
do anything to be back.
It's in North Sydney.
Yeah.
Sponsorship.
yeah, that's right. There is.
Winning.
Yeah.
How long do you reckon an Australian Prime Minister would, if they announced it at 9 o'clock, the question is, would they make it to lunchtime? My thought is no.
Anthony Albanese, thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Thank you very much to the current Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, for joining us. Now, let's get to anything can happen. Anything can happen. Now, let's get to the first guest and the first real guest of the circus.
A darling of the comedy circuit in Australia and beyond. I'm going to suggest, but also a darling of Morning After Paris as well. You know, Tim Hewitt, Hewy, if you will, and I know you will, joined us for most shows of Morning After Paris last year to bring. Hewy, you brought your vibe watch, didn't you? The things that you'd been observing, noticing.
Yeah, it was fantastic, boys. Thank you so much for having me again, and thank you for doing a dedicated effort to book more Italian Australians for the circus. So we really appreciate that. I got in elbows here. Yeah. A couple of paisans.
He's doing this the entire time with the fingers.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
The fingers thing.
Yeah.
The taxes.
Yeah. You're not coming off the cash, brother. Anyway, so
what do you? I mean, you're another guy. You live down here in Melbourne, but really north of Barassi Line. You're more of a leaguey union sort of gear, right? You have to engage with.
You do
footy
have to engage
down
a little
here,
bit.
but
Yes,
you probably bring in more NRL style observations and vibes.
There's the NRL energies. They capture the heart and soul a little more for me. You just. It's it's a tough one. It's a bit more elegant, the AFL structure and media, and I'm learning to grow and love the AFL pageantry. But for me,
you will dine at Lamaro's and have schnitzel and steak and yellowfin tuna in full kit and discuss illicit drugs policies.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
I don't actually know where Lamaro is, but this is coming on this podcast. This is the sort of stuff I need to get a bit more
Lamaro's.
Lamaro's.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's only,
oh my God.
It's only a block.
I'm losing my Italian credentials by the minute here.
White tablecloth, the great and the good of Melbourne's sporting aristocracy.
Yeah. I guess I'm more. What was that pub Kenty did?
Sackville. Or at least Fortuna Court if you want a nice Chinese.
Yeah.
But what about the vibe in Brisbane at the moment? Obviously, we've got our Gout Gout. We've got our Olympics. The Origin didn't go great, but you've got your Brisbane Lions. The Broncos are back. You got Madge there. This is it's a moment for Queensland right now.
It's exciting. It's exhilarating. Yeah, it wasn't really doing it for me.
Hilzo on SEN as well.
Oh
and Corey Parker.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Hopefully Heels. I'm sure Heels has a sort of dustbin approach to how Reece Walsh should be training as well. So that'd be good to get Heelzo's take on that as well.
Yeah.
That should be good. It wasn't, you do get that was a lot of the Brisbane sort of off-season, besides some earlier stuff.
Yes.
Good to get Hunty to cover that, but anyway. But
10 games is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Suspension-wise,
Yeah. Bit tough. Anyway, moving on. It wasn't really doing it for me. I do like this, Madge sort of vibe. You do like to hear Buzz Rothfield being like, no, he shouldn't be training with his shirt off. It's a bit. It's a bit.
Well, that's what Madge has brought, right? Because I guess the charge against Brisbane was that after they made the grand final against Penrith, they succumbed, I suppose, to put it mildly, in the last 20, 30 minutes there. But and then they just fell away, and the charge against them was that they were soft, they were rock stars, they were training with their shirt off, etc. And now Madge the Great disciplinarian, the hard man who like coached New South Wales to, that great Origin series win, has come in to get them in shape.
Yeah. Well, that's Madge is probably what the boys need.
Yeah, that's what you meant to
and
say,
it'll
right?
last about 2 seasons before that blows up. A lot of drama. But yeah, no, it's exciting up at Red Hill there, the boys. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You could almost there was the writing was on the wall while I was crying after that grand final.
Yes.
That we are broken. There's no way we're pushing. There was no like the loss we had to have sort of vibe. I don't think with that grand final. I don't think the Bronx. Yeah, that was a great night. Crying, and then in a bar in Fitzroy, and then this bloke sort of wandered in off the street, and he's like, "Oh yeah, mate, yeah. Actually, you should play a bit of reserve grade for the Eels." It's like, fuck off, mate. But yeah, no, glorious stuff, and high hopes for the Broncos as always. To win the preseason challenge or whatever the fuck it is. That's so important.
Exactly.
That's so important. But for me, really, boys. The NRL season didn't really start until I saw Hudson Young and Morgan Smithies doing a press conference.
Yes, exactly.
And for me, the NRL doesn't really start until you hear the immortal words, I'll let my club down. I'll let my fellow players down, my family down, and the sponsors. When you hear the sponsors, you're like, okay, we're back. Well, thank God he's worried about the sponsors. What's that for the Raiders? Fucking milk?
Yeah. Exactly.
To let down the entire dairy industry is tough.
Dairy industry weren't happy.
And the farmers. Think about the farmers.
Yeah, I know you boys covered a little bit, but exhilarating to know what's going on there. I do love the bit about the plastic bat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because to me, I hear about like a plastic inflatable bat, and I've never been to Las Vegas, but from what I'm gathering, it sort of seems like going to the Ekka or the Easter Show with strippers. What the fuck was Morgan?
Right.
Was Morgan Smithies wearing a Willy Wonka's hat? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? You got a plastic bat at Vegas? An inflatable bat
And an alarm clock.
Yeah. One of those big sort of
It's the greatest show bag on earth.
Yeah, it's mostly. Yeah, it's sort of just like Yeah.
Here's a lot of questions like, why did he have one?
Yeah.
And how realistic was it that it was mistaken as a real one by the LA? Well, sorry, LV
Vegas police.
Yeah, Vegas police, LVPD.
Vegas police. Yeah, I mean, that's America, mate. They just do it all bigger and better over there.
That's true.
I can't imagine what their show bags are like.
Yeah.
But how does it work? Like
it's either an assault rifle or a blow up bat. Fucking get them, boys.
The Herald, who's like covering it, everyone's covering it. It's the biggest story in league at the moment. But and they are partly funded by the NRL to be there. Like, I wonder what the machinations are where they find out about it, right? So, like, obviously, people talk in rugby league. Morgan and Hudson have had a blue over something, and the police are involved.
Right.
So then Weidler and Chamis, etc., have to go hunting. They find the footage, and it's not enough for two blokes to be having a fight in the lift that they see on CCTV. They're like, "What's that?" That's an inflatable baseball bat. That's the center of this story now.
Yep.
Go and talk to the police. Like, we thought it was a weapon. It's like, fucking bang. We've got like 3/4 of our article now.
Yes.
Based around like the inflatable baseball bat really makes that article pop, right?
Yeah. And I feel for sort of the vagaries. I believe a security guard may have been involved at some point, and I don't know what. $8.50 American an hour you probably get to be a security guard. That is not enough to go up to two red-blooded rugby league boys that have been on the strip and they're mucking around and they're riled up. That's a terrifying
pushing the panic button in the lift.
Yeah.
Accidentally, I think it was part of the scuffle. That's the only way they found out.
Yes.
Just bumped into the panic button.
Do we feel it's a little bit light on for, like, I think, like, because there's obviously a lot of talk like this is really bad for the game, bad for the league, we're embarrassed, but actually,
it's about as good as it's been.
Yeah, no, but like,
concerningly,
isn't what we actually want? Some sort of like enormous controversy.
Yeah,
that's the good for the game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I know PVL, he wants Trump he wants Trump interested, and this is the sort of stuff that might get Trump going.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like. Hopefully, we could get a few Trump rants about the NRL. I think if we really want that sport to go off over there, we need to hear a bit of Morgan Smithies, very nasty to Hudson. We love Hudson. Don't we love Hudson? He's a cheeky boy from...
Yeah.
Yeah. Ricky, tricky Ricky. We know Ricky went bananas on the boys. He's very not nice, Ricky. Many are saying he will blow up.
Because Vlandis is pumping up this Vegas game by saying the NFL has one Tom Brady, but the NRL has two.
Yeah.
And he's referring to Nathan Cleary and Nico Hines. And I'm not so if I'm listening to that or hearing that as an American, I'm like, oh, okay, they've got two Tom Bradys. It's not immediately clear to me how Cleary and Nico Hines are both Tom Brady or they combine to be Tom Brady.
I don't think
because Brady's got 7 rings, right? So Cleary's at 4.
Could be a divorce thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like he just goes, we've got 2 Tom Bradys. How is Nico Hines Tom Brady?
I don't think Nico would love it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gorgeous, beautiful.
Oh, he's a beautiful man.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he means.
Maybe he kisses his son on the lips. Maybe that's his Tom Brady.
Right.
Tom Brady loves doing that. But yeah, poor Nico. You wouldn't say he's clutch.
Yeah.
As a Queenslander. But gorgeous, always wet.
Yeah.
And that's always exciting.
Oh, the hair.
Fresh out of the shower.
He's always
looking give.
Plays in the Hamptons, fresh out of the shower.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
Always wearing a robe for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh. He's a beautiful looking man.
Yeah. Maybe that's... But that is exciting to imagine 2 Tom Bradys.
Yeah. You picking anything else up in the NRL? There seems to be a lack of white powder scandals at the moment.
Well, I was worried because I Pez said, "Oh, what would you want to talk about?" And that was one thing. I was like, where has the off-season white powder scandal been?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Until Hudson and Morgan had a little tussle, I was like, when
wrestle off.
Who the fuck is going to let the sponsors down?
Yeah.
Come on. And not only a severe lack of white powder, a severe lack of players posting themselves doing white powder.
Yes.
Which is, one of the most exhilarating elements of social media.
Yes.
And sportsmen having access to it. Val Holmes is one of my favourite players, and I don't think I've ever been more proud to be a Queenslander.
Yep.
When Val Holmes posted up a photo of him holding a cruiser and just delicately holding a bag in his mouth.
Of white powder.
Of white powder. And who's to say what it is?
I like the reporting of the white powder. Different to Wayne Carey in a Perth casino saying actually just crushed up some paracetamol.
As we do, as you can do.
That's how you carry them around.
Ingesting.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I get my paracetamol out of the. Typically, it would come in a packet as a whole tablet,
which is often quite convenient to consume, just in a tablet form.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I crush mine up.
And I crush it up.
Yeah. And I have it over the course of sort of 7 or 8 hours.
The way I might some garlic.
Yeah, and it's just so important. You never
put in a garlic crusher.
Yeah, and it's just so important. Never, keep your eyes on your own bag. You never know what's going on in a bloke's bag, and you never know what's going on in a bloke's head. So it's just important for men's health. Just eyes off each other's bag.
Well said.
Yeah.
The paracetamol was one of the all-time.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's really good.
Well, again, we're learning that white powder or paracetamol or cocaine is something that actually unifies both codes.
Yep.
Yeah. No one ever thinks it's ket.
It's like cocaine. That's ketamine.
Yeah.
That's horse tranquilizer.
You can't, which would probably be better for them. You can't imagine a rugby league prop. Yeah. Just microdosing it. Just getting in a hole. Yeah. Anyway. It's something to think about.
Now, speaking of things going on in the bloke's head, here's Marty Sheargold on the Matildas.
Football or soccer, it's been a nightmare tournament for the Matildas over the last 3 or 4 days over in the US.
You know what they remind me of? Year 10 girls. Now, I'm sorry to undermine the whole sport, but that's what I think of it, so you can stick it up your ass.
So we're playing in the She Believes Cup.
Oh, she believes in what? It better be men.
We're 12 months out from Australia hosting the Women's Asian Cup, so hopefully we have a bit of runway to improve before that comes around.
The Asian Cup. I'd rather hammer a nail through the head of my watch that. Got any men's sport?
Yeah, I do. Baseball. The New York Yankees have in...
Marty Sheargold said, any comedy, including mine, can miss the mark sometimes, and I can see why people may have taken offence at my comments regarding the Matildas. I sincerely apologise. Far be
it from us to judge people whose comedy misses the mark. Firstly,
well, yeah,
right?
well, there is that. What's going on, Marty?
Yeah,
what's going on? Now, first of all, I like watching the Matildas myself. I think criticism can be fair. I think hasn't been going so great for the Matildas recently. 4-0 to the Japanese. Conceded the goal in the first minute against the USA the other day. Lost 2-1 that game. Things aren't going as well as what they have been.
Matildas have been pumped for a long time.
Yeah, but we're proud of them.
Of course we're proud.
And they unified the nation.
Yeah, unified the nation. And we expect when the Asian Cup rolls around for them to win.
And we'll beat the Japanese again.
All the teams that have been beating the Matildas, or us, and they're going well.
Yeah. Not here, though.
We will expect us to turn that around.
Sell out crowds.
Tournament. Exactly. Sell out tournaments. Sell out crowds. All that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, for me, I'd prefer to watch the Matildas than hammer a nail into my cock.
Same.
That's just me.
Same.
And I know it's a figure of speech. But I want to also know about the mechanics of the nail. Yeah, that's where my head goes with it initially. Again, Martin, he's apologised. Obviously,
he has apologised.
So you can fuck it up.
Yeah,
but he was going hard there, and I do think the Matilda, from a cricket perspective, Elise Perry said for a long time, we're keen to be criticised and judged the way men's are, the way men's sport are. When it comes to sporting matters, I think Matildas have been pumped for a while, and been lesser than our expectations.
Hasn't helped the whole Sam Kerr experience recently as well.
It's helped.
I would say it's helped that the captain was out and about, making some errors of judgment.
Yeah,
perhaps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What about Jannik Sinner? Now he's going to say number one in the world, rightfully so. That's despite a 3-month ban for drugs.
Performance-enhancing drugs.
So Sinner's, he's won the last 2 Grand Slams. Of course, he won the Aussie Open a couple of weeks ago. The Italian negotiated a deal with WADA to serve a 3-month ban. Sinner's explanation was that traces of clostebol, a banned anabolic steroid, had entered his system through inadvertent contamination from his physio during a massage.
Yeah.
Now, that can happen during a massage,
A lot of things happen. A lot of people do receive performance-enhancing drugs in their system inadvertently.
Yeah.
Not intravenously, inadvertently. They're having a massage, they're walking through a kitchen, they're having dinner. It just happens. We know it can happen.
All I'm saying is things can enter your body that you don't necessarily like or have asked for during a massage.
Regularly.
Yeah.
Well,
that can happen. The whole thing is will they, won't they? For an hour, for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
You're thinking, well, how relaxed can I possibly be? Will they, won't they?
There's an unspoken genre. The old will they, won't they massage. Speaking of Triple M.
Usually a different sort of performance enhancer being taken before a will they, won't they massage.
I mean, how good have you got to be at tennis to be like, I'll negotiate a drug deal? A drug ban, sorry.
Yeah.
That's a separate.
Tennis or no tennis on that front. We'll get back to the illicit drugs policy.
We're back to Lamaro.
3 strikes. Wasn't it? It was accepted that by WADA that he had nothing to do with it being in his body, hence the result. But it is funny, and all I want to say about this, and this comes back to Morning After Paris, is that when it is sports people from other nations, I treat it with heavy skepticism, and when it's Australians, I believe them wholeheartedly. Simple as that.
Yeah, and if
on cultural grounds,
if they're good, they've been targeted.
Yeah,
unfairly,
because it's not something we do here.
Yeah.
It's not part of what we're about.
It's not what we're about. Never have been, never will be.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Gout Gout running the stall gift? That's going to be April 21, Pezza.
Yeah.
It's 120 metres over grass.
Gout,
okay?
Oh, yeah.
Now,
looking for clarity on the pronouncing of his name, by the way. Don't want to... I'm hearing different things, but for now, reading it phonetically.
My understanding is that he has said, despite his father saying he wants to be called Gout Gout, Gout Gout has said, I would prefer to be called Gout Gout. That's my understanding.
It's the same as Mana saying, look, just call me Labuschagne because it's too much of an issue. I know it's hard for others to say Labuskakni.
Yeah.
So just call me Manus Labuschagne because I just don't want the issues.
I'm good to go here. Yeah. Whatever.
We could just rally the nation to call the guy by the name.
Now, Linford Christie and Asafa Powell have run the stall gift before. Neither of those won it. So the question should be, what should the handicap be for Gout Gout? He's previously run a wind-assisted 10.04. Obviously broke the record, Peter Norman's record, Greg's brother. for the 200 metres the other day. 200 metres or 400 metres?
Peter Norman was 2.
It was 2. Yeah, he broke his record, his national record.
Fuck, there's a boys actually.
I think there's already been a couple.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
Yeah.
So, what should the handicap be? Should he start in the car park?
Yeah.
120 metres kind of stuff, you know? Should his laces be tied together beforehand? Should he be put into a sack?
Underrated YouTube clip is Kathy winning the store gift from the everyone knows it as soon as I say it. Grainy footage, VHS, Kathy coming from nowhere to beat some white regional Australian women. So it looked, you know what I mean?
I was the fastest
I think, and I think actually in that I think in that clip from memory, someone tries to jostle her out of the way. Which is you can expect that at stall.
Yeah, well, you can. I don't think you can in the 120 sprint though over grass.
True. I'm not jostling Gout out of the way.
Just jockeying for position.
Okay. Thing is, there's a lot of, and here we could bring you in on this, particularly as a Brisbane native, you know. Am I right in saying that, Queensland?
Yes,
yeah.
So
Redland Shire Council. There's a duality to Gout. Thank you. Sorry.
What was your exact address as a child?
One is the prospect of him winning gold in the 100 metres at home as an Australian, something that hasn't been done. I want to talk about that as a hypothetical shortly. The other one is the athletics carnivals that he's dominating now at sort of a GPS level. Which gets the blood going more as a Brisbane former school student and now adult?
As a former adult.
Oh gosh, I mean, both exhilarating. The thought of it.
Can you imagine the vibe around schools? At the athletics carnival
must be tough. I'm not sure what school Gout goes to, but
it's one of them.
Yeah, one of the big ones. I imagine it must be awesome to be one of the private school kids.
I know.
That's the buzzer that has to stand on the blocks next to Gout and go. It's gonna go well. Right. I think it's all exhilarating. It's going fast. I think we talked about it in the Olympics, but it is, especially at school. There's nothing more exhilarating than being the fastest guy in your school.
It's
it's
visceral.
That to the country.
Well, I want to ask about a primal thing. I want to offer you a hypothetical. So it was a hypothetical discussing at length at your Bucks party. Here goes. Okay, so there's a prospect of Gout winning the 100 metres gold in the men's at the Olympics at home as an Australian. Something that hasn't been. I mean, the things you're ticking off there are right up there in terms of the ultimate sporting achievement that gets the nation going. The best we've done in the Olympics is I'm just speaking in objective matters, 400 gold at home. Right? 400 gold women's at home.
And also bullying the main contender out of the country before the race starts.
That's part of it, and that was good. Excellent context around Kathy. Loved it. 100 gold men's Brisbane. He's at home, at his home.
Home city.
There's one. Now, is that as good as it gets in terms of what can be achieved in sport? I want to offer that against, for example, Australia winning the FIFA World Cup, let's say men's or men's for argument's sake, at Wembley in the 90th minute in injury time against England. Speakpipes on this as well. What is it? What's the ultimate sporting thing you can?
I don't remember a lot of my Bucks, but I do remember this conversation.
Right, you do.
That's
good.
Yeah.
Sounded electric, this Bucks, fellas. No, seriously, guys, let's go through it. What would be the coolest thing?
The stripper Crystal, she had some her views as well.
Destiny, get off me. Come on, let's talk about it.
You make Gout. Don't you start.
No. No, but seriously.
Got any men's sport?
Yeah. Suncorp Stadium, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things is, hopefully Gout wins. We'll see where the stadium is first.
They're building the old showgrounds,
look, it's an exhilarating question, but I think, the country would really get around him, and as Queenslanders,
it's Queensland first, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there'll be a lot of sort of 8 in a row sort of chat still going around then, I reckon.
Oh, yeah.
Just about Gout.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's just sort of, it's just different. They just don't get it.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean probably the American or Jamaicans that will be...
Exactly.
up against.
They don't get
Gout
sprinting.
in the finals. They just don't get it.
Yeah.
Imagine if he ran like in a Broncos jersey or a Brisbane Lions jersey.
Yeah.
Well, there was a
Singlet.
the freedom fighter from the Congo interviewed this week about their resistance movement. He was wearing a Queensland jersey from the 8 in a row era as
Gee,
well.
Fucking good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck to the establishment there.
Yeah.
In the Congo there.
So I think
shout out to those guys.
I think the answer to that question
I don't know
relies a lot
what
on
side to take on
shout
that,
out to
but-
those
but
guys.
the Queensland jerseys won me over.
Drop us a comment if you're from the Congo.
Yeah.
A lot of it depends on time zone, you know? So Wembley final, it's going to be sort of your 3 in the morning. Maybe that adds to it. Maybe it adds to it. But, you know, like a 100 metre, 100, 200 metre final is going to be prime time Australia. Or it could be at 11 in the morning for the US audience. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just a factor.
Let us know what you think, though, obviously.
Anyway, speaking of Americans...
And hey, Gout, no pressure, mate.
Don't do
Just
a
want to
hammy.
get this early in 2025.
I'd
yeah.
hope he'd have a goal under his belt before Brisbane anyway.
He's got to get one in
He's gonna go
LA.
anyway.
Got to get LA one.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be 21 years old by then, won't he?
Yeah.
How old is he now? 16? 17?
I believe he's 12. Yeah.
12. He's
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
12. Kyrie Irving. He said, man, we're in the process of that right now in reference to playing for Australia. Just trying to figure out the best route for me to be eligible. There's a lot of paperwork involved. Obviously, USA still has a decision to make, but for me, I'm just trying to do what's best. Honestly, if I can be an Aussie at one point in my career and play for the Australian team, that would be great. So Kyrie Irving would be 36 by the time the LA Games kicks off. He was born in Melbourne while his father was playing basketball professionally in Australia, and he holds dual citizenship. But switching national teams requires approval from USA Basketball, Basketball Australia, and FIBA. So Kyrie, 36 years old, LA Games. I mean, he'd want to play for the US. Obviously, that would be his first choice, I'd imagine. But he wasn't selected. I think he's won golds in, not Tokyo. What was the 2016 games? That was in
Rio.
Rio. I think that's where he won gold for the basketball team. He wasn't selected in Tokyo, though.
I think the main thing is it's a great opportunity for people who
Or Paris.
build their personalities around knowledge of US sports, NBA, NFL, etc., to proffer their opinion about it. You know, like, and I'm not sure whether if you are like a nonce for American sports as your number one like identity marker, whether you come down on the side of Kyrie or whether it is a boys actually. Yeah, Wiley, you know, he's a guy, you know, who had great handles. He's actually fallen off on, you know, when getting up and down the court or whatever the language is, and you know, you're better off going with whoever that guy is that's got a Substack now.
Yeah.
Jock Lansdale.
An exhilarating type of fella, the Australian basketball or NFL guy.
Yeah,
that will
big
be
time.
all over this sort of information.
Loves a Super Bowl Monday.
Yeah, sort of pummeling a WhatsApp with other blokes like, oh bro.
Yes, I'm not sure with Kyrie, Kyrie, as you say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're at the pub after cricket on Sunday, and one of the guys is too into American, and he goes, do you know about basketball, man? I go, not really. He's like, Doncic, like, you could see this guy's eyes like popping out of his head, and everyone else not giving a shit.
Yeah.
The craziest trade just happened. Please talk to me about this. Yeah,
I've heard about it in AFL terms down here on
Yeah,
SEN.
thank God. Yeah.
And now I understand it.
Yeah, I actually get it when you put it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Kyrie Irving, you know, one of the greats of the game, playing for Australia. Okay.
I like the look of it. I like the aesthetic.
Problem is we've got Paddy Mills. I'm not sure how old Paddy is. Maybe he wouldn't be eligible
Keep
for the
him
other
going
games.
too.
So, but then you got sort of same position type situation.
Paddy Mills is our MS Dhoni.
Maybe we
Just
play
roll him out.
small. We play small ball. Paddy Mills is MS Dhoni. He's blind.
Yeah. Roll him out in the wheelchair. Still good marketing.
Still good.
It's all good.
You got Giddy. Slob Wizard.
Yeah, Slob Wizard.
Slob Wizard. Joe Ingles still knocking about.
Don't look into that, but yeah. We've got Slob Wizard, Joey, Substack guy.
Yeah, Paddy Mills.
Paddy Mills,
and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Sounds a good team. We'll take silver.
Yeah.
I'd kill you. I'd bite your hand off now for bronze. I'd bite your hand off for bronze. Pezza boys, actually.
Boys, actually. We want you boys, actually. So anything we've got wrong this week or any time, even if you're anticipating us getting things wrong, boysactually@gmail.com. It actually absolutely went off during Morning After Paris because we've got everything wrong all the time. What you have to stand about the Olympics is. Same thing with footy. I imagine that it's going to be that by a factor of 10 this time around. So boys actually at gmail.com. We've got 2, which is weird because we haven't even done a show yet, but people are correcting us already. Matt says, hey fellas, looking forward to your coverage of the World Athletics Indoor Championships. Thoughts on Australia's medal prospects? Cheers, Matt.
I don't like the indoor championships, especially the sprinting where they have to run into like a padded wall for the 100 metres.
Yeah, I'll do. I mean, for me, those like particularly those like European indoor championships are very much like home from 3 a.m. after a silver service cab that I thought about jumping in 2004, but didn't because my sister told me not to.
Eurosport stuff,
but it cost me $29.20, and I'm fucked for a travel 10. That's European athletics for me.
Yeah,
on Eurosport. Do you remember that channel?
Yeah, probably like beIN Sport now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure the PIF are involved somewhere.
Yeah.
And Jude says to close it out, boys, actually over under 20.5. People that get publicly annoyed at Jack Ginnivan this year. Who do the boys follow also? So it's just who's going to get annoyed by Jack Ginnivan. Doesn't everybody get annoyed? But then there's a contrarian to that. And then a contrarian to the contrarian.
I like his score is 20.5. So what's that, like 21 times? Different to 21 schooners, of course.
I don't know. I presume it's a gambling thing or something.
I like anyone that gets mad at it's always like pretty young little blonde things. It's a real sort of bloke
with an attitude.
sort of Fight Club sort of stuff. I wanted to break something beautiful. Yeah. It's anyone that looks like Bieber. They're just like, pretty boys. These pretty boys. It's like Reece Walsh. Yeah, Ginnivan. Just play the sport, you flog. It's like, okay, mate. There's something else going on here.
Hey, Hewy, where can people catch you? I reckon we're going to have you on, if you agree, before your shows at Melbourne Comedy Festival, but where can people catch you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much, boys. I'm doing a show at the Comedy Festival. It'll be on the Comedy Fest website. It's called Tim Hewitt, bit of fun. Doing some stand-up, some sketch and all that sort of stuff at the Cooper's Inn, and let me tell you, tickets are available.
We're going.
You'll be part of a very exclusive club if you buy tickets right now. Yeah. Sort of first membership, Molly Meldrum sort of stuff. You'll be number 1 ticket holder if you get in today. But come on down. The Cooper's in there. That'd be awesome. And real honour to be doing this, on the same episode as Elbow. I just quickly wanted to say the last time I saw Elbow, the only other time I was doing shows at Splendour in the Grass, and he was in the sort of backstage area bathrooms with me, and I was in front of him, and it was sort of wet and disgusting, and he just said, only number 1's in there, and I just had a sort of curry wrap, and I really let down the future Prime Minister, and so I'm glad I didn't have to look him in the eyes again today, unfortunately. But yeah, anyway, shit like that will be in my festival show. But yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
Hewy, thanks for being here. Thank you very much to the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and thank you for making it to the end of this episode, the first episode of the Circus. Pezzo, well done.
And to you and yours.
See you next Wednesday, where the episode will be much shorter than this, probably.
Yes.
See you then.